New era. The Sun and Jupiter are teaming up this week to change your life, and the Earth calls on you to adopt a new vibration. All that and more in Namaste Today Live. It's Friday, and it's now time for Namaste Today Live. Hello to our community. We're so happy to be here. Welcome to this fabulous Friday happening in the month of August. We've entered into the sign of Leo recently, and we're now moving forward through our heart. We're going to talk about it this week. I am your host, Sensei Christopher Witecki, here to report on the planets and help you find your cosmic place in the universe. And we are now streaming live. This is a live show on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, also X.com and Instagram. But if you're in the super chat, do us a favor and say a super hello. Tell us where you are coming from. And if you want extra credit, tell us what your astrology sign is. Let's say hi to a few people. Hello, Neptune girl. So nice to see you. It's so nice to see the family. Nancy Hodges, it's so nice to see you. Welcome. Nanette Pavola, if I butchered your name, pardon me. Sherry Clary, hello. Jana P, hello. So nice to see you. Priscilla Love. And we'll do one more. Iris, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. I think I did that last week too. It's an exciting time, folks, because we're coming into the easier part of life. I got to tell you that right now. We have been doing nothing but walking up a flight of stairs since the beginning of the year. And this week we start to begin to glide. It's also Lionsgate, which means we are in a cosmic connection to the universe, connecting our heart to the universe. And it's going to be a powerful week in that sense. We have a new moon that's going to kick off on Sunday. That's going to be powerful to set the new story. The Sun and Jupiter will be sextiling this week. And that's pretty powerful because those are the two largest objects in our solar system. And the Earth is calling on you to adopt a new vibration in your daily life. And later tonight in ASTRO MINGLE, we have Michelle Patterson here, who is an angel medium. Her and I will be talking about the angels, and I'm using everything I've learned from Devin Dewar to know more with her today, Michelle Patterson. And today, because things have been a little hectic, I'm not going to throw to the Zodiac weather, but first let's take a look at the week's moods and your Zodiac weather. Because we actually just had a little hiccup in the giddy up and haven't gotten the video out today like we wanted to. So I'm going to do a treat for everybody, a live version of the Zodiac weather, shall we? All right, here we go. This is almost like me in the radio studio. This Zodiac weather is from Saturday, 8/3 to Friday, 8/9, 2024. Looking ahead at the weekend forecast. Over the weekend, we're coming into integrity when it comes to our heart, and we're now expanding into new territory. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and collected. Step 11 rules the day, which means Chiron rules the day. The moon is in Cancer, starts off moody, but then moves into Leo in preparation for the new moon. This day is going to feel really good, super healthy. The theme of the day is I love integrity, and you're opening up to your dreams and your wishes. On Sunday, it's sunny and joyful. Step 12 is the next step in the new world. It is ruled by Jupiter, which means we're now running with new beliefs. You are loving, believing. And we have Venus entering into Virgo, so love becomes tough love, and Mercury stations retrograde at step 4 Virgo. Looking ahead at the 5-day moodcast of the week, over the course of the week, you're going to take this new integrity of self-love, and you're going to take this new seed of hope with the new moon at 12 degrees, and you're going to now cast a new story in which your life will now follow. Let's look at Monday. On Monday, it's sunny and thrilling. That's because step 13 rules the day, Uranus ruling the day. The moon in Leo also sort of bounces off that Uranus energy. This is a day where you're going to love innovation, and ultimately you are transforming yourself. And you can expect the unexpected when Uranus rules the day. On Tuesday, it's sunny and loving. Step 14 means Mercury rules the day. So this will be a very heady day, especially when you complement it with the moon in Virgo. This is the day where you say, I'm in love with the idea, but what is reality? So I think we start to get clear in our mind and unclear about daily life. In Wednesday, it's sunny and optimistic. Step 15 means Venus rules the day. This is a day where we say, I love balance, and we are now shifting. The shift is starting to get real. That's right, that's the joke we did. This shift is starting to get real. On this day, the sun sextiles Jupiter, so that's the connection of the heart and our beliefs, and Venus conjoins Mercury retrograde for the first Cazimi event of Mercury. Then on Thursday, it's cloudy and temperamental. Step 16 means Neptune rules the day. The moon starts in Virgo, super hyper aware, and then shifts into Libra, so we might feel a little unsettled. On this day, it's about loving grace and believing in your divine self. And just sort of amping it up, Mars will then sextile the North Node at step 8 Aries, and this means that you will fortify where you are going. And then on Friday, it's sunny and crisp. Step 17 means Saturn rules the day. This is the day where you will love assurance and you are leveling up on your beliefs in life. The moon is in Libra still, so you're going back and forth and keeping things sort of balanced. But here's what's most interesting on Friday. There is a 24-hour and 48-minute moon void, of course. So Friday may feel incredibly still and maybe a little paranoid, to be honest. And that's all we have for the Zodiac weather. Back to you, Chris. Now, with that said, coming up, let me actually pull this thing around because we're doing sort of like live TV here. Ultimately, what we are realizing as we go forward here is, one second, I've lost my place here. I apologize. Here we go. So I'm getting confused because we come back from this. This is where I say, if you are watching on YouTube TV, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Serious Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified, and please like our program so other YouTube algorithms will point other viewers to our content. And this week, Namaste Today Live is sponsored by SeriousJoy.com. I don't know if you've been to the latest episode of our website. It is beautiful. We have all sorts of new features. We have simplified it, and we are growing in our community. Right now, we're doing the 40 days of self-love and ascension, and we're all learning to come into our heart and then raise our spirit. You can find out more at the end of the show, but you can also go to SeriousJoy.com for free right now. Check out what is the current step number and also what is the mood of the day. So with that said, without further ado, let's move on to our weekly planets and transits.
Audio Jungle.
I believe what's next is what we came here to do, honestly. I honestly believe this is a divine appointment.
There's no blueprint for what we're about to do.
We're the new generation of evolving our species.
So, we're going to talk about boundaries.
You are much closer to making a dent in social media than you think.
Welcome to the planets and transits, and I gotta say things are a little wonky right now. First of all, for me, they're a little wonky. I just, in the last 2 days, came out of my 12th house transit. I don't know if you know what that means. It's when you have a natal chart, there's one house called the 12th house. This is our subconscious house. Everyone has this house. And for 30 days, you're sort of run by your subconscious. And I am literally just waking up in the last 24 hours, like of being in a fog. And you may go through the same thing. That's why I'm bringing it up. If you have a 12th house transit coming up, let me tell you, I got a report. It was intense. And I'm not surprised because we did all that clearing with Saturn and Pisces. We have Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces. So getting to the 12th house, which is the ruler of Pisces, I had a lot of stuff coming up. But I have to say, I was very confident. I've noticed in myself that I have a lot of puddles have dried up. And I've had things happen to me that normally would throw me off center. And now I'm just saying, I don't care. I'm not going there. And it worked. It's actually working. Now, in the big context of things, we are in the summer of love, and we're now in the sign of love, which is Leo. And as it turns out, most of this summer of love has been the summer of self-love. So if I could go back to March or whenever I came up with that title, I would say it's the summer of self-love, because people are all, I think, focused on their self-love. And today we're at step 11. So we're at the end of the self-love portion of the transit. We've been focusing on this really intensely with the 40 Days of Self-Love on SeriousJoy.com. A great program, by the way, if you've not gotten acquainted with your heart. And it's not too late to join either. It's a 40-day program. You can hop in. I'll talk about it at the end of the show. But it's a great time to take it, because in this particular Leo season, in the last 11 days that we're now completing today, let's all high five each other. We have been exploring loving ourselves on a higher level. And this is the highest level we've ever had the opportunity to love ourselves, in my opinion, because our love has always been tainted or weighed down by our traumas. The things that are holding us back from childhood, past lives mostly, which come back in childhood, but also things that happen in adulthood, like divorce and loss of people. It weighed heavy on our hearts. And we've been working since 2012, when Neptune went into Pisces, to start to heal this. But it wasn't until Saturn went into Pisces about a year and a half ago that we started to take real responsibility for that karma, to end those cycles of abuse, or end the cycles of self-abuse, or falling into patterns like addiction, or falling into patterns like violence or anger. And so particularly this year, as Saturn now finished up the early degrees of Pisces and then moved to the second decan of Pisces, we pretty much had a responsible approach, or we took responsibility. That's the words I was looking for there. I think I'm feeling Mercury retrograde, by the way. I've had a lot of Mercury retrograde. We had Mercury retrograde on Sunday night. I'll talk about that. But we were seeing symptoms of it as soon as Thursday. And I've had moments where I'm just like lost. My mind goes somewhere else and I forget completely. I've had words completely fall out of my mind. I've seen things in my head and I can't name it. So there's definitely a vortex energy with this Mercury retrograde. We'll talk about that. But I think this is a powerful early degrees of Leo, because since we have taken responsibility for that stuff that weighs us down, that stuff that takes away the fun, basically, of life, or makes fun less fun, we've removed it. Well, now we have this capacity for the first time in our entire lifetime to really go higher. I really believe that our own traumas have kept us sort of in this back and forth, sort of phase. And we haven't been able to really ascend and go higher, like live a happy life day after day. You're probably the same way. It's like if you have a good day, you're so grateful for it, because how often do you have 2 good days in a row, right? I think that that's changing. I think that now that we've cleared this heavy karma, we're going to start to have several happy days in a row. And then we'll have several happy weeks, and then several happy months. And that, my friend, I think is 5D. That is serious joy. That is what we're here for. That is the enlightenment. So as we went through these first 11 days, it might have been kind of tough for you. I know it was for me. I have a lot of Leo energy already. I have a Leo rising and a Leo moon. And those first 11 degrees of Leo for me are mostly my connection to God. So my self-love is tied to God, which is tough, by the way. I think it's because I want to do a good job for God. I want to do a good job for the universe. And so I think I've held sort of ransom my self-love based on what God would think of me. Just sharing here in case you have similar experiences. So maybe it was heavier for me than others, but I feel like this self-love transit we just went through was probably the deepest and the heaviest we've ever done in our life, because we're so awake and aware of all the issues, and we're very aware of all the little pockets that we fail to love ourselves, day after day. Now, since we're on the topic of self-love, I want to continue with it. I mean, we're technically ending the intense study of it, steps 0 to 11. So the intense study is over, but you must continue to love yourself and love yourself some more for the entire Leo transit. In fact, you must continue to love yourself and love yourself some more for your entire life, from what I can tell. That is the ascension process. What I have realized too, and this is what I was getting to, a lot of people think self-love is buying yourself good things, giving yourself a mani and a pedi, giving yourself a day off. And the truth of the matter is that's actually, it's self-love, but it's self-love outside of you. It's not self-love within you. And that's really what we are practicing right now. It's the thoughts, the feelings, you allowing yourself to get into a funk and not pulling yourself out, or you getting carried away and then getting upset with yourself and then pulling yourself back and then feeling guilty you got upset. Like all those little back and forth that you have inside yourself, whether it's over a test you're taking or it's about something in a relationship. It's the way you respond inside of yourself. It's the energetic response. That's what self-love is. That you are always feeling good about yourself. You're always loving who you are, and you're always responding in the most loving way. So at SeriousJoy.com, we've been talking about with our practitioners to love yourself on the inside in higher and higher ways and love yourself some more. That's the next thing I want to point out. I believe, as I've been studying this for a while, ascension, that is, like going to a higher frequency, that first of all, we're a culture that doesn't love ourselves to begin with. We've been taught to hate ourselves, right? We've been taught to criticize ourselves. We've been taught to use certain vices with ourselves, like self-criticism in order to get ahead, or holding our self-love as hostage until we do better for ourselves, like using it as almost like a punishment tool or a tool to encourage us to move forward. And so we have really abused self-love issues sometimes as a means to get ahead, being mean to ourselves and whatnot. So we are now having to reverse that. We're now asking ourselves, okay, we need to stop those behaviors. But stopping those behaviors is just loving yourself. And stopping those behaviors is not ascension. It's stopping those behaviors. So what we've been learning at SeriousJoy.com is that you have to love yourself to stop the behaviors or to, make it nice. And then you have to love yourself an extra dose in order to ascend to the next step or the next level. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not used to being loved like that. And I'm not used to really accepting that love either. So it's uncomfortable. And as I found myself trying to follow my own thing, my own scripture, if you will, my own lessons, I found that it was very hard to have 2 doses of love. I thought I was being, spending too much energy or too much money. So I think it's going to take some time to get used to bringing in that more love and loving ourselves some more. And I also feel like this is something that has to continue for the rest of our life. Now, what we're teaching at SeriousJoy.com is the best way to love yourself, first of all, is energetic, as I mentioned, but it's also through feeling, that you use your feelings in the most mundane part of life, right? So let's say you're going to go clean the bathroom. How do you love yourself by cleaning the bathroom? Maybe you bring in a radio and you hear your music. Cool. That makes it a bit more easy to scrub the toilet, right? But how do you love yourself some more, right? On top of that, I already brought in the music. I should be entertained. No, we need to love ourselves some more. So maybe the loving self some more is like, I'm going to clean the bathroom. I'm going to clean the toilet on a day where you don't have anything else to do. So you choose a right time that is more self-loving. So in the most mundane things of life, when you're, cooking dinner, doing laundry, this is where you practice the love yourself and love yourself some more. Because if you master the mundane of that self-love, it will automatically rise to the big things in life, like the big choices in life, choosing the right person, choosing the right job, choosing the right path for ourselves. You will not have any doubt about how to choose the right path or right person for your partnership if you chose the right toilet scrubber, right? Like if you chose the right small things. So it's interesting. I'm starting to see as I age and as I become more wise, why Buddha and all the masters always use simple things like caterpillars and flowers to talk about major spiritual concepts, because really in the most simple part of life, you have the most profound, reflections of human consciousness and intelligence. So it is time now, as of step 11, yay, we made it. I'm high-fiving the audience. As of step 11, you now know, you should know, maybe you don't. I know people doing our program do, because we write and journal, we map it out. You ought to know the little pockets where you are not very self-loving. And those pockets are probably lifelong, right? So let's say you're I'm not going to say it. I can't even say it. That's so ironic. Dyslexic. Yeah, there it is. And perhaps you've always felt bad about yourself being in that, having that, situation. I don't want to call it a handicap. You might have seen me switch there with my words. It's like, it's not a handicap. It's just a way you were born where things were wired differently. But the point is that we are learning now to love ourselves in all these little pockets where we sometimes are mean to ourselves, sometimes cold to ourselves, sometimes hard on ourselves. And I think, believe it or not, a lot of people think, oh, I have to go to college to achieve, or the thing wrong with me is that I don't have this or I don't have that. And in my personal experience of coaching people, usually the problem is in these little pockets. You overall, yes, you love yourself, but you're really hard on yourself about your body, or you're really hard on yourself about, your school grades, or you're really hard on yourself about your money situation. And so it's like, why are you not loving yourself in those areas? Why don't you love yourself in the areas that you fail? Why don't you love yourself in the areas where you've been an ass, right? It's difficult to program yourself in that regard. But what I'm saying is, I feel that a lot of the reason why we don't ascend or come out of certain patterns is because we're allowing we say, I love myself. Of course I do. Of course I love myself. I do so many things for myself. Yeah, but whenever you get a B on a test, you beat yourself up for 4 days and you feel bad about it. That's not self-love, right? It has to be constant. So as we move past this step 11, all the way up to step 29, Leo, and then into Virgo, we'll continue it. You want to be looking for those places that you haven't noticed before, that you are kind of nasty, maybe mean, maybe you're cold. Sometimes a failure to love yourself is when you go cold on yourself, right? So, you don't, like, I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to look at that problem. Really? You're not going to try to heal that problem. You're not going to, dive deep into it, understand, and move it into a new place. You're just going to sit there and tolerate it. And that's a very common thing with humans. We have been very much stuck. We just allowed certain things to happen. And then we go, why can't I find the love of my life? Well, every time you get a B, you're a jerk to yourself. Or you do find the love of your life, and every time you get a B, they're a jerk to yourself, because people don't really realize that the love you receive from other people is always a reflection of your self-love. All right. So when we attract mean people, when we attract people who disregard us, or people who just walk past without appreciating, it's because there's a part of yourself that you are not appreciating, a part of yourself that you are disregarding, a part of yourself. It's not usually the exact same. It could be another part of yourself. Like when it comes to my health, I'm going cold on myself, and then I manifest a relationship that's cold to me. But this is all, all symptoms of failing to love ourselves 100%. And that just means you bring the God, love, energy, compassion, non-judgment to that situation. And you have to reinforce as well. It's funny too, in spirituality, spirituality is a practice. You are never being tested, really. I mean, you have little tests, but really God isn't looking at tests and grades. Consciousness is all about repeating and practicing. It's a spiritual practice. Self-love is a practice, just like a doctor's practice or practicing medicine. They don't call it perfecting medicine. They're calling it, practicing. The same is true of self-love. We should not judge ourselves about how good we are or grade ourselves. We should just always try to improve, to do better next time, to love ourselves some more. Again, I don't feel like we do very good in our life if we're always beating ourselves down and criticizing ourselves. Does it really get a better version of yourself? In fact, in that moment, if you're hard on yourself, the imprint, when you're there again the next time, is because you were hard and you were mean and you didn't love yourself in the last mistake. When the next potential mistake comes, you get into a little bit of phobia. You might start to get hard on yourself. And so because you were hard on yourself before, people project that into the next, cycle of it. And that's what consciousness is. It's constantly cycling and circling. There is no such thing as a straight line, really. It is a constant circle, which means you will see these issues over and over and over again. And what you'll find as you age is that, let's say you completely abandon yourself, when you're a teenager and you do drugs and sleep around and all these things that you regret. But then in your 20s, no, I'm going to be better about this. And then in your 30s, you feel the temptation to do that. And you start to miss that time, even though you've way outgrown it and it's not appropriate. And then in your 40s, you start to see your children having this. My point is that it's a practice. You're going to practice when you're bad at it. You're going to practice when you're decent at it. You're going to practice when you're good at it. You're going to practice when you're over it, because you're going to have your own kids going through it, or you're going to have your grandkids, or you're going to have your neighbors, the people in your life. And that's what I find. We're always practicing, but we're practicing from different vantage points. So when it's about you, you practice from you, but then you start to see it in the world. So speaking to the world, where are we? Well, interestingly enough, this is a very powerful moment. In fact, today is a very powerful moment. I felt between worlds today. I've gone off in different directions, lost touch with space-time. I think it's a timeline shift, and I think it's one that I saw. We didn't really see it in the planets, it's a timeline shift from the perspective of we just finished the self-love portion. But if you think about it, this weekend, we have step 11 on Saturday. It's already started right now. We went to step 11 about an hour ago. I went a little cross-eyed. So many things, shifting from 10 to 11 is us coming into alignment. 11 is I'm aligned. 11 is I love myself and love myself some more. That's what 11 is, which I think is the solution to life and the solution to ascension. But that step 11 is like a line, all right? And where that line starts is, the beginning of time, where we broke ourselves. We were perfect in Atlantis, and then Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, and we've been sort of struggling to put ourselves back together ever since. And in this lifetime, like I said at the beginning of the show, we started facing our karma when Neptune went into Pisces in 2012. And now with Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, we've finally come to grips with what our karma is. And in this year, it's been an intense year of sort of finishing that karmic course. Now, the evidence of this astrologically is that Saturn is now at 18 degrees. 18 degrees is the action degree of Pisces there, and the action degree of the second decan of Pisces. And the second decan of Pisces is daily life. The first decan of Pisces is your own inner spiritual life. Saturn has basically made it all the way up to 18 degrees of the second decan, which means we have taken responsibility, which is what Saturn is. We've taken responsibility for our karma in ourself, the first decan, and for all of our karma in our life. Now, we have to manifest the new life when Saturn goes to 19, but the old life is certainly over. So in this step 11 of Leo, we've cleared all of our karma, or we at least know about it. I think some karmic paths take longer. They don't get cleared just the year that Saturn's in Pisces. But once Saturn does go into Pisces, you're like, okay, it's undeniable. I have a problem with this. I have a problem with that. And so you may not have solved it, but you're not in denial anymore. Everyone knows about it. So you're going to be reminded as soon as you slip off that track. For lack of a better term, we're done. All right. There's still trickles. There's still waves. Again, it's a cycle and a circle. So you'll see it, again, but it's no longer paralyzing you. It's no longer keeping you from relationships or keeping you from love. So that's significant, right? Well, that said, that was, the Sun in Pisces and Saturn. This year, after we went into Pisces and we activated that clearing, we then went into Aries and we had the Grand IM, which was that solar eclipse at 19 degrees Aries, which has turned out to be very powerful because that was the reboot of our ego, because ego can get in the way. You may learn your karma, but you're still an ass, right? Your ego is still taking on others. So what I'm showing you is that the universe has done a complete clearing of this consciousness from Pisces, here's the issue, to Aries. Okay, let's get a new ego about that. Then the Sun went into Taurus, and it's like, okay, let's now get new values. You just cleared your karma, and you've told your ego to stand down. You must feel better about yourself. That was Taurus. And we felt a lot better about ourselves this year because we had Jupiter wrapping up in Taurus. We have Uranus still in Taurus. So how we value ourselves, what we make from that value grew significantly. Then we went to Gemini, and that's very powerful because Gemini is how you think about yourself. And not only do we go into new thinking, Jupiter went into Gemini, which means that we're going to think differently and we're going to expand Jupiter outside of our normal thinking. So we cleaned our spirituality, we cleaned our ego, we cleaned our manifestation, we cleaned our thinking. Then we cleaned our emotions, which is my 12th house transit, the hard part. And that was, of course, the Sun in Cancer. And I felt, I don't know about how you feel. Tell us in the comments. I'd love to know that this was a heavy Cancer transit. And so, I said at the beginning of the show, I don't know if it was, me because it was my 12th house transit, or if it was everyone because it was Cancer. But emotions are a place, our feelings are a place where we sort of stow a lot of those issues. And because we don't want to feel it again, it lives longer. So talking about blocking apart, not loving yourself, if some idea gives you bad feelings, like maybe the idea of someone who's died, or the idea of like your best friend married your other friend, or these sort of weird things that happen in life. And what we do is like, ooh, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. So we push it away. I felt that this Cancer transit was heavy. There was a lot of stuff that came up that I knew was there, and I had stowed it away in a closet, or I tried to forget about it, or I drowned it out with my own work, which is how I do. I'm like, I'm just going to work harder and not pay attention to how I'm feeling. So this Cancer season, again, very profound, just like Pisces, Aries, Taurus. Gemini, and Cancer. And that brings us now to Leo. Leo is the self-love. In this last 11 days, do you love yourself more now that you have faced your karma, rebooted your ego, expanded your values, stepped into a new mindset, cleared your emotional field? The words are, hell yeah, you ought to. And if you don't feel better about yourself, why not? What's held up? What step did you perhaps skip? So as we get to 11 today, and I have to say, I mean, again, it could be 12th house. I felt like a hot mess in Cancer. I was just constantly holding myself back from overreacting, not letting myself go down emotional wormholes. I mean, it was kind of high seas. And then we get to Leo and it's like, okay, just love yourself. And so these last 11 days, I think were a really deep look at self-love because we had eliminated all the other, options or aspects that could be the problem. Our faith, Pisces, our ego, Aries, our values, Taurus, our mindset, Gemini, our emotions, Cancer. Once we got to Leo, we got to the heart of the matter in these last 11 days. I've had some profound truth about myself. And a lot of, another aspect too, I'll say is there were parts of myself that, and I don't know what your impression is of me, but there are parts of myself that I have always been ashamed of that I just didn't want to think about. Frankly, I didn't have a solution for it. Maybe it's stuff from my past that I, feel embarrassed about. There was a lot of weird stuff that I had just been ignoring. And in these last 11 days, I have been clearing these things. They've been coming up. Things been coming up that go all the way back to the beginning of my childhood, actually, that I had managed to ignore my entire life. Pretty powerful, really, when it comes to the ability to ignore your whole life, right? So I've gotten to the core heart of things in the last 11 days. I've also gotten to the heart of the matter about my truth. And I've seen this a lot. I've seen it happening out in relationships where people are sort of going at each other. I've seen as soon as the sun went to Leo, it's really interesting to watch because suddenly people are like, hey, don't talk to me like that. Hey, no, don't talk to me like that. And I was like, whoa, there's conflict here. But it's not really conflict. It's actually each person is finally standing up for their heart and they're doing it bouncing off of another person. So I saw a lot of conflict in the early degrees of Leo also because people are getting to the heart of loving themselves and finally standing up for themselves in certain moments for the first time. Unfortunately, because it's a planetary thing, everyone was doing it. So there was, conflict as a result. And the answer is everyone was right. Everyone. You have to love yourself. Another interesting aspect, well, actually, we'll talk about that right now. I'm getting a little ahead of the transit, but to some degree, once you know you love yourself, and this is where we're going this week. This is a good segue. This is a perfect segue. We move to step 12 tomorrow, okay? And we not only move to not tomorrow, Sunday. I'm thinking like it's Saturday. We move to step 12 because today's step 11 right now, and it goes into tomorrow. We do move into step 12 tomorrow, technically, but it really rules Sunday. And by the way I look at ruler steps is that if you wake up to the step, that's your ruler that day. It's like your consciousness was programmed with a master ruler of that step number for that day, whatever you wake up to. If you're in a coma and you wake up at like 3 p.m. to the other step, that's the step number for your day. So the ruling step of Saturday is 11 and the ruling step of Sunday is 12. And the space between those two steps is like the Grand Canyon. What I mean by that is we have always gone into the world, and that's what the next degrees of Leo is. Step 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. All the teenager years, those are all the teenager degrees. Those are all the degrees that we create life from, right? In every sense of the word. But in Leo, we really create life in those particular degrees. And so if you show, and we create it with our heart. So step 12, step 13 is like, oh, I want to have a life of being married. I want to have a life in the city. I want to have a life in the country. My heart would love to live next to this or live next to that person or live in this country. Our heart, asks for these things. That's what makes us do it. But if you were coming from a heart that didn't love itself, that didn't have self-love integrity, step 11, that abandoned itself, or a heart that was mean to itself, do you think you're going to create a life that's free of that? No. If you come from a damaged place, you create damage, or you create fragments of the damage, depending on how healthy you are. You'll see little aspects and themes of it. So what this comes down to is we just cleared out all of our karma. And we have amped up our self-love to a level that we've never felt in our entire life. And that might just be free of the pain. That's great. If you're now free of the pain, that's ascension, but it doesn't stop there. So as we go to step 12 is my point. Step 12, which is Sunday, is the new story. Step 12 is always the new story. But step 12, Leo, is the heart's new story, the new love story, if you will. And so I believe the chasm between 11 and 12 is huge because this year's 12 is a 12 we've never been able to ever have before. For instance, will I be successful in finding love? Well, you weren't before because you had a damaged heart. You didn't love yourself. And so you attracted people who did not love you either. You attracted people who did not pay attention to your heart's needs because you didn't pay attention to your heart's needs. My point is the lives we have made on earth were all created from a damaged or abandoned heart. Therefore, now that we have a healed heart, in progress of healing, not 100%, there'll be fragments and things. Now we can create paradise. We can create paradise. We can create heaven on earth. We have the potential to do it. And it's funny because I remember when I was like 19 and I was like, how the hell are we going to ascend? How is the world just going to heal itself? And of course, the step system has taught me that through the degrees and how they approach. And this year has taught me even more. Like the way the earth pulls itself out of the muck is that the earth, just each individual loves themselves better and doesn't allow the king to piss you off or whoever's president to make you angry. You don't allow things going on in the PTA to, throw you off guard because your first and foremost desire is to love yourself, right? And so you don't let yourself go there. As a result, we now have the capacity to create lives that we have never been able to create before. I think we're in completely uncharted territory. I think the only thing that we can compare this moment to would be like ancient Atlantis, not ancient from our perspective. I'm talking about Atlantis itself was thousands of years old as a civilization, but they actually sort of came from very primitive sort of farm families and communities and grew up to a more sophisticated culture. But they loved themselves at the very beginning, from what I understand. When I study the Ascended Masters and things from the angels, humans were not damaged back in Atlantis. They were not. We showed up 100% pure. And so this is, this moment here where we have re-purified ourselves is, I think, identical to the very beginnings of Atlantis when we were moving from tribal into culture, but we had no damage, right? So it's an interesting moment. The other thing to know too, and this is one of the themes of the week. In fact, this is a good time to go. Let's talk about the themes of the week. Perfect timing. I'm drinking more water. I don't know if you hear my voice. It's a little crackly. And there's a green halo in my hair tonight. Believing dreams do come true. That is the theme of the week. Believing that dreams do come true. They do. And that idea and that title comes from the step 12, a Leo day on Sunday, because on Sunday, it's not only step 12, it's the new moon. So what's happening on Sunday is, hey, yes, it is a whole new world. It is a whole new world where you're not putting your baggage into the formula. Therefore, you're creating things that are not flawed or challenged or handicapped or whatever term you want to use for that. So yes, it's a new world in that sense because of what we've been through, but it's a new moon, which means it is a new world. A new moon is the implant of new consciousness. So we literally are having new consciousness birthing. And this new consciousness is, I'll say, the virgin consciousness of human culture, the one that is not watching out for the devil. What devil? There's no devil in 5D. There's not something working against you. That was part of our younger parts of ourselves. So we move into this new era. Sunday, therefore, is, in a way, I'm not even sure what to call this. I try to think of terms for it. I don't have a term because I don't think we've ever done this before. So, hey, put in the text, what should we call this moment? Like creation was the first one. We created humanity. Now we're creating a new enlightened humanity. It's a new moment. Yeah, is that Aladdin? Okay. Oh, interesting. I was a whole new world. I can't remember where that song came from, but I bring it up all the time. The other theme of the week is raising my inner vibe. Raising my inner vibe. So the way we manage self-love, okay, let me go back. We're moving into creating a new life, right? Yes, we all have to create a new life. It's going to be based on all the things we've healed, and we're letting all the shadow go. But to maintain that is through a vibe. right? And we know what vibes are, although we don't have the vocabulary for them because they're imaginary and unscientific. So, we just say it culturally and we say it in gossip with each other, but there's no scientific measurement for a vibe. It's something you feel, right? And it's something you feel subjectively, right? But it's common. Like 7 people walk into the same bar. They're all like, yeah, I like the vibe of this place. Every one of the people, they saw that felt the same vibe. Well, we allow ourselves to go through different vibes, right? And I don't think we pay attention to those vibes other than saying, I'm in a bad mood, or I don't feel like it. We don't really actually look at the signature, like, what does that vibe feel like? Can you compare it to something? By the way, vibe is Aquarius. And the reason why we're not good at vibes is because we haven't been back to the age of Aquarius in 26,000 years. It was the age of Aquarius, which is when Atlantis was here, that we were masters of our vibe. In other words, as citizens of the world, you were to maintain your vibe. You had vibe hygiene and you had vibe rules, so to speak, where you don't let yourself fall into that vibe for too long. Can you maybe answer why you wouldn't want something to fall into a vibe for too long? Law of attraction. A vibe is what attraction is based on. Aquarius is literally the law of attraction. It's showing you that one line is completely attracted to the same line. I look at Aquarius as 2 hearts beating as one, but that's the vibe, right? So with the Earth in Aquarius, we are manifesting our vibe every year. When the sun's in Leo, we manifest a vibe in Aquarius, right? And then we flip it around in the beginning of the year, and we then create a new vibe, Aquarius, and then we manifest a heart space to hold that vibe. So it's always going back and forth. But because Pluto has just moved into Aquarius, we're suddenly aware of our vibes like we have never been before. I mean, everyone is, and we can make distinctions. Pluto allows you to make distinctions. So we are higher resolution when it comes to vibration than we have ever been. And going back to my original point here is, if you want to manifest this happy life, right, you have to continue that self-love vibe. It can never go away ever again, because that self-love vibe is from source, the one creating your life, you. And so I think we have to manage our vibe, and not only manage our vibe, but this week's theme, raising our vibe. Because whatever vibe you have, I don't care who you are, it's not high enough. And I say that because we are now going as a completely galactic community to a higher vibration. There's no way I do think there were some people who were high vibration before, but I think, these are like swamis or on top of mountains in the Himalayas, and they're meditating their whole life, and they're not eating meat, and they're, like changing their entire life to change that vibe. It was really hard. It was a sacrifice, right? Now it won't be a sacrifice. You don't have to go climb Mount Olympus and meditate for the rest of your life. The entire earth is being brought to that level regardless. So, power to those yogis and masters that kind of figured it out when the earth wasn't supporting it. The earth is now supporting it. We are now aware of it. We have Pluto and Aquarius. We're making distinctions between the vibes. And we not only have to be aware of our vibe, we have to raise our vibe to a higher frequency. Now, you may think, okay, I raised my vibe, I'm done. No, friend, 24 years with Pluto and Aquarius, 24 years, you will raise your vibe, 24 years. So, it's funny. I'll use a parallel here. Facing karma, right? We just spent, I don't know, 30 years maybe, really. I mean, probably 30 years facing our karma. When Saturn was in Pisces in 1984 and 95, we started to open that up, and then Neptune came into Pisces in 2012 that really opened it up. So we've been working on our karma for a really long time, right? And I had a lot of clients. I had clients say this last week, which is just, Jesus Christ, how much crap do I have in me? It's like whack-a-mole. Every time I clear a karmic issue, another one pops up. And I clear that, another one pops up. And I clear that, another one pops up. And it's really fascinating. Like, who knew how many layers of karma we actually had? Because we're just living on the very top layer, or aware of the very top layer of that karma. And so we just went, it was like over and over again, sort of like being whipped with a spaghetti noodle, right? Like, it's really, and it's after a while, you're just like, Jesus, right? Can this just stop, please? It was deep what we went through since the early 90s. What I'm doing now is making a parallel to Pluto and Aquarius. This vibe that you have right now, this is kindergarten where we are. We're going to be looking at vibes for 24 years. We're going to be raising vibes to higher frequencies, and not just higher frequencies, but more sophisticated frequencies, more effective frequencies. And we'll get to a point, in my opinion, where we will literally be using frequency to heal bodies, frequency to create, to do miracles, frequency to move pyramid pyramid stones. That's what they say. It was some sort of a musical frequency tied with the Earth's gravity frequency. They somehow figured out how to make the vibe, make the, the stone rise and float across to where its place was. So raising my inner vibe is huge. All right. And then not only that, maintaining your vibe and paying attention to your vibe all the time. And then the question of the week is, what is the vibe of paradise? What is the vibe of paradise? And I say that because when it comes to vibes, we need a goal. What's the goal? And I already shared this on SeriousJoy.com. I realized that my vibe of paradise is the vibe of being on vacation. You know that vibe when you're on vacation, you're like, oh, yay, a hotel and room service and towels and as much towels as you need. And there's fruit, there's buffets, there's the beaches. There's so much stuff. You're just in this high. You're in this high vibe situation. So for me, I answered the question that way. What is the vibe of paradise for me? I'm going to want to always feel like I'm on vacation. I want to feel on vacation at work. I want to feel on vacation on vacation. I want to feel on vacation all the time. I want to have that vibe. So I recommend that you tune into what is the vibe of your paradise, because I think it will be a very powerful tool for when you feel your vibe go south. And maybe it goes south because someone that is always a problem in your life comes in and disrupts it. A lot of times we are interrupted with other people. Our vibe is just fine until you walked in the room, right? And that's a complicated situation because technically we should not allow another person's vibe to affect our vibe. That's poor man's boundaries. You don't have the right boundaries in place if that's the case. But it's okay. We're brand new at this. But we're learning how to maintain our vibe over time. And when you have it slip into a little, cavern, I'm trying to think of like a valley, a pothole. That's a good word. So when your life falls into a pothole where the vibe just suddenly sinks all of a sudden, and it might be because of someone else, it might be because of you, it might be because you remembered your first divorce or something someone did to you. My point here is, what is the vibe of paradise? That's what you ask yourself in that moment. If you fall into some funky vibe, well, what's the vibe of paradise? And here's the weird thing about vibes. They're infectious. All right. So when you call up the paradise vibe, right when you're facing the hell vibe, the paradise vibe will actually take over the hell vibe because it's higher. So anything higher takes over lower. So you will literally you just watch yourself like unfolding and reformat into that higher vibe. So I think we have to be conscious of the vibe of paradise. We have to keep it in our back pocket like a tool, pull it out anytime we fall into a conscious pothole, and use it and tweak it and come up with new paradise vibes. You can run with that theme, by the way, and have, little vibe, like memorized vibes to bring you back into schoolwork or bring you back into your marriage. I know for myself, I'll give another example. When I first started off as an astrology reader, I did not think I was psychic at all. I did not think I was psychic. I thought it was scientific. I liked astrology because it was scientific. I didn't necessarily, I was worried about everything being right. And I realized at one point that anytime I started a reading, this vibe took over me. Like, it was just like, I called it the zone. I didn't call it the vibe. I called it the zone. I go into the zone and all of a sudden the information comes. What I came to realize was, oh, that feeling is the vibe of my psychic awareness. And once I realized that, like, oh, it's not the zone, it's the vibe of your psychic ability, I would then go forward in readings. And before reading, I would deliberately think of my reading paradise vibe. And my reading paradise vibe is that vibe that I channeled when I went down that path. And I will pull myself into my psychic awareness right before the reading. If you've had a reading with me, I do this, that I will actually take a moment and shift myself. I'll go quiet in the reading. And what I'm doing there is I'm trying to find the vibe of my psychic self. And as soon as I find that vibe, I'm in it. And I have full access and I can download anything I want. And we teach that at SeriousJoy.com. By the way, every day in our pep talks, we teach about how to manage that. So vibration management is very important for the next 24 years, but it's very important for the next 3 weeks because it's the counterbalance of Leo. And, you can say you love this and you love that, and oh God, wouldn't it be great? But if you want to materialize, if you want to stay, if you want to affect others, you got to look at it from the vibration it creates, the vibe that happens from that self-love. Now, remember, self-love is step 1 in the step system, and a vibe where you belong is step 4. And because step 4 comes after step 1, well, that's not, I did the wrong fingers here. I don't know where the camera is. But because step 4 comes after step 1, a vibe is officially a child, a great-great-grandchild of self-love. So you self-love first, and it leads to the vibe. And then you hold on to the vibe to maintain the self-love. Does that make sense? Sort of like a stencil keeping the shape together. All right, so let's take a look at the planets. We got to look at the planets. And I'm looking for my notes. Here we go. So much going on this week. But we'll start, of course, with Leo. In Leo, we go from step 11 to step 18. So I've already talked to you about step 11. We're in it right now. We kind of fortify it on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we go to step 12. We have the new moon at step 12. So God's like, make it so. Okay. Whenever there's a new moon on a step number, it's sort of made into law. We also have on Sunday, Mercury retrograding. And we have that new moon at 12, which means we're starting a whole new world. So as we move forward, in this heart process, step 12 opens up this whole new world. And we go from 12, the new world, to, let's take that idea higher, step 13. And then we kind of frame it up in our mind, step 14, like, the world is actually, this whole new world is this way. And then we get to step 15 and we understand and we accept, like, yes, this is the way it's going to be. And then we get to step 17, we say, yes, I'm committing to this. This is what it's going to be. And then step 18, where we end up next Friday, we go, all right, I'm acting on it. Sign the contract, spend the money, show them, let's do it. And so we put it into motion. So in 1 week, okay, from 11 to 18, you're launching the new story. That 12 new moon is the new story. And then you take off with it. Don't forget, all the time, the Earth in Aquarius. So our heart is saying, this is a new story. And the Earth in Aquarius is saying, okay, that story is this vibe and it's that vibe, or it's a mixture of all these other vibes. So this is a very important week in that sense, a very important week in the sense of you're creating your whole life, basically. I mean, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but this is a strong line between the old and the new. And from this point forward also, I have to tell you, and I wish I could have balloons drop right now. Do we have balloons in the studio? Because in this particular moment, you are free, right, to create anything you want, because you're not burdened by your traumas, your dramas, these things that have held you back since Atlantis, frankly, since Humpty Dumpty fell and we had to try to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I mean, if you want to use Humpty Dumpty fell in Atlantis, and Saturday, we finally put Humpty Dumpty back together again. 26,000 years plus a couple days, right? Pretty powerful. So this week, you're going to now cast, and that's what I mean, believing dreams do come true. The step 12 new moon is believing. And so the real theme of the week is, come that new moon, you're going to believe you can do it. You're going to believe it authentically. There might be a part of you that argues, and that's, working out the kinks, but you're going to believe. Now, Venus actually starts at step 28, which is what you manifest. So basically, Venus is creating a nest, a landing pad, opening up and saying, okay, throw me the ball. I'll catch it over here. Venus sort of kind of creates this open space of which we send energy to, sort of as a commandment. And so they kind of go back and forth. Venus at 28 when the sun's at 11. So the sun's at 11 and Venus is at 28. That's the first day of this week. And today, really Saturday, which means that as soon as we come into integrity, 11, we are saying, okay, I know how it's going to end. I know how the story's going to end, 28 degrees. And we basically craft right there. This spectrum from 11 to Venus at 28 is the spectrum of the whole new world, the whole new life, the whole new lifestyle, the new fun, the new path, the new creativity, the new love. And by the way, I do think, and we'll talk more about this in the future, that is the new relationship, the new high vibration relationships. Relationships on Earth romantically have not been going well at all, right? So we're kind of launching that too. Venus moves then into Virgo, which sort of makes everything hyper aware, hypercritical a little bit. I mean, that's another thing. Right now, you're probably watching me. I was going to tell you a story and I realized, no, let's not go down there. But I've just say this right now. I've come to believe that Virgo is I realize. That's what I've come to realize or believe. I call it I become, because when you hit to Virgo, you become what you have been loving and working on. But I realized that's actually realization. We realize, we make it reality. Realizing is making it real. And so what happens is when Venus hits Virgo, we start making all this shift real. Now it starts to get real. And that's great because we're coming out of the clouds of what if and creativity. And, you can sit there and think about us. You've ever had like a creative project where everyone's just bouncing off the walls with creativity, like, oh my God, we can do this and we can do this. And then it's like, 5 days later, the boss comes in like, we don't have the budget for any of that. None of that is real. What's real is we got this much money, we got this much time. And so what happens is Venus moves into that realization, puts a little bit of a dampening on the story and the potential of the magic, but brings it back to reality because we realize we don't have it in the budget. So, it's hot and cold in that regard. But I think Venus in Virgo is going to sort of keep us from going too far, from going supernova, becoming prima donnas, right? Where Leos can go. Because Venus goes into Virgo, it's almost a safeguard that we're not going to take this sun change too far. Okay. That was a big chapter, but very important. Now let's move on to Virgo. We already have Mercury in Virgo, but on Sunday, Mercury is retrograde. And Mercury retrograde starts actually at 4 degrees Virgo, and will go all the way. In this week, it goes from 4 to 3 to 2. So that's the whole spectrum. That's it, because it's moving so slowly. But Mercury in that space is saying this Mercury retrograde, there's a lot to talk about tonight. That Mercury retrograde is sort of like the final note. It's like, okay, step 11, I'm in my integrity. Oh my God, it's great. And then we get to the new moon. It's like, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new story. And everything's beautiful now. We don't have to worry about all kinds of things. And then Mercury goes and scene and goes retrograde. Oh, what was that? Did you see stars and stuff just now? Oh, maybe that's our own graphics. But Mercury goes retrograde right at that moment. You have the new moon early in the day on Sunday. And then that night, on Sunday night, Mercury retrogrades. And it retrogrades at step 4 Virgo. And step 4 Virgo is basically where you belong with yourself in your realizations. So when I realize my relationship to myself, is my mind on the side of my heart or is my mind on the side of Virgo? What is very real? And see, this is a really powerful moment where people start to take their power back, because you don't have to base your thoughts on what's real. I know I probably sound ridiculous saying that, because everyone bases life on reality. But this is where the cosmos gets really funky, because reality is really what we were yesterday presented, right? So if we say reality is the absolute truth, when it actually started before reality, we can't take reality as real. So I think the Mercury retrograde is going to say to us, I can't take these things that I've always thought about myself, Mercury, as real anymore with those first degrees of Virgo. I can't take this as real. That's not real. It was my imagination. That was, that was projection from my childhood. That was dysfunction from my marriage, whatever. We're going to realize that what we realized was wrong, basically. A Virgo's worst nightmare. They're wrong. So it might be a little disheartening, but I don't think it will be disheartening, because the sun is in the sign of the heart. So I think the heart's is going to overpower that. Mercury will then go back into Leo, and we will then start to rethink and reimagine what our dreams can be. And so we'll talk more about that in the upcoming episodes. Then we have, of course, Venus goes from 0 to 6 Virgo. So Venus comes into Virgo, she finishes up Leo, and she moves into Virgo. This is where we start to open up now, and we start to take in and realize as well. So, Venus in Virgo is when you go, oh, I never noticed that crack in the sidewalk before. I never noticed that my tooth was cracked. I didn't realize it was. I didn't realize it wasn't real to me because I didn't realize it. So Venus is going to be, it's kind of funny. Mercury is saying, hey, unrealize this stuff. And Venus is saying, and realize this new stuff. So we have this sort of switching energy going on. And because the switching energy is going on in Virgo, and Virgo rules what we realize, and what we realize rules reality, one can make a very good argument that we are beginning to restructure reality by realizing ourselves differently. And that's these two planets right here. All right. Then the moon. Oh, there's balloons. Am I doing that? Or maybe that's him. That's funny. It is him. Okay. Thanks for taking the credit for it. The moon this week is, I think a little dramatic. I was looking for, I'm editing myself between the two worlds myself, right? We're step 11, but I haven't been in my news story yet. We start off in Cancer. That's where we are today. So how you feeling? As we speak, we're at 24 degrees Cancer. It's always run the chart right when we do the show. So we're at 24 degrees Cancer, which means we're now feeling where the world may go. So there's a lot of feeling of where can the world go? This is, of course, right before the new moon in Leo at step 12. We get to step 12, the new moon, where that moon in Cancer goes into Leo and starts to lighten up or enlighten. That's the word I'm looking for, to bring our heart to the emotional field. And it really does bring our heart to the emotional field, by the way. So there might be a lot of drama when the moon goes from Cancer to Leo, because you may not have felt, we've been in Leo so far, oh my gosh, I never loved myself here. Oh my gosh, I never loved myself there. What a jerk I was. Then when the moon goes into Leo, it suddenly is, really powerful, and you are feeling it. So if you have something you're mourning, trying to get over, trying to heal, the leading up to the new moon could be hard. You have to love yourself and love yourself some more, but it's not going to happen every year like that. So we sort of really feel the love on Saturday. Then we feel kind of re-energized on Sunday with the new moon at step 12 Leo. And then the moon goes into higher degrees of Leo on Monday. So on Monday, you're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. Everything's possible. Nothing can stop this train. So to me, that's a lot of highs and lows, right? And then the moon goes into Virgo late Tuesday, or on Tuesday morning, like around, I think like 4 a.m. Eastern time. I can't remember exactly. And then what happens is the moon goes into Virgo, and we start processing all the things we've realized. I've realized that I've become a real jerk at work. I realize this, I realize that. And the hard part of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with the moon in Virgo is it could be some tough medicine. I mean, when a Virgo tells you the truth, you don't feel good, right? Because it's undeniable. They have evidence. They have people who've signed, petitions, like Virgo's like carried out to the nth degree. And that means that your emotions will carry it out to the nth degree. And you're a jerk here and a jerk here and a jerk there and a jerk there. And again, I think that's going to be kind of a more difficult week. Thank God the sun's in Leo, so we're loving ourselves as our primary motive, but we're really processing a lot of the core emotional stuff related to self-love. Then the moon goes into Libra Thursday night and then Friday. And I think that's where we start to go, I don't know if I am really a jerk. I think I just have bad habits. Shouldn't have drinking that much back then. Or, so we weigh back out and come out of that Virgo judgment and bring it back to a nice sort of fairness with ourselves. So to me, that's an emotional roller coaster. I think this will be an emotional roller coaster week. Moving into Gemini. In the world of Gemini, we've got, of course, Jupiter and Mars in Gemini. This week, Jupiter goes from step 14 to step 16, which to me is pretty fast. It's probably at the very end of 14. But what's relevant here, and really let's look at the two together. Mars basically starts in the first decan of Gemini. So Jupiter's already been through this space here. Jupiter moved through this space at the very beginning of the transit. So Mars is basically saying, okay, remember what we learned when Jupiter was in this space? Mars is like, now do it, right? So we've got this sort of bossy voice inside of us, Mars, in the degrees of consciousness of us talking to ourselves. So this is sort of like, it could be bossy. I mean, I think that's part of what you have to manage this week is like that Mars shouldn't be bossy, because that's not loving. That's, you don't get the best out of yourself by being bossy, right? So even Mars has to go through that self-love filter and make sure it's doing the right. And the self-love filter would be the loving way of bossy is supportive, strong, adamant that you will make it, so using the Martian qualities to assure you will get what you want versus punish you like you did in the old world. But this does mean a lot of inner arguing with yourself. There's been so many arguments in my life. I have been in so many arguments, which I don't ever do. And I was like, it's Mars and Gemini. That's what it is. Like my ego and people are saying it too. In arguments I've been, they're like, I can't take it anymore. I've got to tell you this. I'm not holding it in anymore. And I was like, Jesus, and Mars and Gemini. So Mars is saying, hey, you got to move forward with that strong thinking inside of yourself. It goes to step 13, which means by the end of the Mars of this week, Mars at 13 Gemini, that means I will start a war. I will picket on your lawn. I will do whatever it takes to get what my mind wants to think, or what my mind wants to say, or to put the truth out there. It can express itself in many ways. So we got this feisty part of ourselves. Our ego's all feisting up the way we think about ourselves on the inside. Then Jupiter is sort of like grazing through steps 14 through 16. Notice too that Mars stops at 13 and Jupiter starts at 14. So that's really interesting how that plugs in. But Jupiter is saying, hey, you're too narrow-minded about this, man. You need to think about it from different ways. You haven't considered all these different perspectives. That's what Jupiter does. Jupiter's like, did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know that actually, that slavery has happened for all the races on the planet? Did you know that? Did you know every race has been enslaved at least one point? It's not just one specific. I'm not saying any of them are okay, but we've been very narrow-minded, like, oh, it only happens to these types of people. No, it's universal. Did you know that everyone has been under that, going all the way back to the aliens before Atlantis? So Jupiter is really opening up our mind, expanding our mind at step 14, which means the mind's own rules get upgraded, okay, all the way to, and what does God have to say on that? So I think intellectually, this is a feisty week, and you have to look at, protecting your self-love and make sure that this part of you is in the right octave, that it's not bullying, instead it's being strong. And this part of you isn't going too far, right? I think Jupiter isn't supposed to open up wormholes. It's supposed to say, oh, there's a wormhole over there. Did you know that? Right? Some people are like, oh my God, and they get sucked in that kind of thing. To manage Jupiter, you want to just say, okay, and there's an exit there, and there's a thing there, and then, okay. You can go and drill down on any of them at another time. All right. Taurus. Go back to the astrology. In the Taurus energy, good old Uranus. But here's the thing. For one, it finally moves off my Venus. That was tough. I mean, I know I've been whining, but I'm a cow. I'm a bull. That's what I do. Like, we moo. But Uranus moving to 27 means Uranus is now going to couple with Mars, because Mars is the ruler of 27. So that means that Uranus is always saying, you got to do higher, you got to do better, you got to do better. When Uranus gets to 27, it's, you got to do better, God damn it. Like, there's this Martian energy that goes into the you got to do better. That can express itself in so many ways. It could just be that you got to do better, and so the people not doing good will start to collapse because they've been called out by Uranus. It could also mean that we invent amazing things. But Uranus at 27 does mean that things start to electrify and speed up and start to really start changing. So we might see something in the world start to really take off and change out of nowhere, like technology or any of the topics that are hot right now, like aliens and things like that. It's all prime. What it means in your personal life is that it's now time to get going with what you want to manifest, your big manifestations. You want a doctorate degree? Get going. You want to open up your own theme park? Get going. So we have this push of, come on, get going, let's go, right? And which is cool, but when you're doing with Uranus, which is like fireworks, you can get some unintended consequences there that you hadn't anticipated. So 27 is feelings and what you sense. Just make sure you check your feelings and what you sense before you act, is my advice. But also, I think there'll be a lot of surprising stuff with Uranus 27. It's like, hey, I was thinking about running for president. Go for it. So you get a lot of green light to things that were radical or maybe impossible, or you would have never considered. And Uranus at 27, like suddenly people are like, yeah, I can be president. You can, right? Uranus is giving that power. So it will do well, and it will also create havoc to some degree. Then we move on to the spirit of Pisces. And I've talked a lot about Pisces already today, but we'll reiterate. Saturn is in Pisces at 18 degrees, retrograde, holding steady. Neptune's at 29 degrees Pisces, holding steady. They're both retrograde. They've been the same step numbers now. I don't know the exact days, but it's been 2 weeks at least. They've been stuck in these numbers. More like a month. I mean, Neptune's been there for a long time. What this ultimately means is, the death of the old era and the birth of the new era. Saturn has said, okay, every human being knows what they've done wrong now. They've taken responsibility for it. At this point, if they do it again, their stupidity. Like we showed them, says Saturn. And that's a huge mark, right? Because usually we're like, oh, we'll stand by you until you get there. Saturn's drawn lines. Those rings are sharp. They cut through the bullshit and force you to get to the core of where the power is. So Saturn retrograde here does mean that I've shown you everything you need to know. However, Saturn retrograde also means Saturn's like, I'm not going to step in next time. Let's see what you do. So what Saturn does in a retrograde is it goes off in the corner, starts judging with his arms crossed, and it's just like, oh, so are you going to follow through with what I taught you 4 months ago? And so you get this kind of these tests that come in to see how strong you are about holding up that spiritual line, and the invitation to go back and undo your work. So you must take responsibility to make sure that you're not going to repeat your karma. That's what Saturn's saying. Neptune is saying, and who knows, anything is possible. And that's what 29 is. Anything is possible. This sort of opens up the magic of creation and says, we can do not be limited by what you've seen so far on Earth, because what you have seen is basically the low vibration when humans didn't know anything. So Neptune's saying, you can't base knowledge on what you see now, because what you see now is not based on knowledge, right? So it basically cuts off us falling back into the old and opens us up going to a whole new world, whole new era. Then, of course, we have Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius at step 0 Aquarius, holding space now for a whole new vibration to go higher. Not a lot to say other than you definitely have to switch channels. It's time to switch channels. If you haven't shifted your core vibe inside yourself yet, be careful, because Pluto there will force you to. Pluto moves back into Capricorn on September 1st at 20 degrees Capricorn. And so just like I just said with Saturn, Pluto's been opening us up to this whole new vibe inside of ourselves. Like, oh, we don't have to vibe this way. We can vibe cool. Once Pluto goes to Capricorn, Pluto's like, okay, I'm out. It's up to you to keep up that vibe. This is one of the reasons why I think September is when things start to get rough. And yes, it's because Pluto's in Capricorn and we're going to face, issues in karma around power and whatnot. But it's also, we lose the babysitter. Pluto has been guaranteeing that we have the right vibe. Now Pluto pulls out and goes, okay, let's see how well you can dance, without the orchestra behind you. And that's where it gets a little challenging. But right now, Pluto's still in Aquarius and still helping us out. And then, of course, we have Aries. I want to scream Aries, but I need a drink. I really feel like something would have thrown out of my throat. The North Node moves to 7, which means the South Node moves to 7 also. But the North Node moving to 7, a couple things. One, we wrap up with the North Node at 8. Okay, are we committed to change? Yes. Are we going to stop doing this? Yes. Are we going to start doing this? Yes. So the North Node at 8 was sort of like this rallying of your inner troops to say, okay, let's do this. We're going to change the way we behave with ourselves. Once the North Node goes to 7, Aries, you're basically changing what karma is going to come through your actions or not. So it's a decoupling of the karma. To give an example, it's like, I always, whenever I heard bad news, I would always turn to, eating desserts. And my karma is like, ignore my body every lifetime. The point is when the North Node goes to 7, I think the universe is saying, do you want this to be your karma anymore? Do you always want to turn to cheesecake? Is this going to be your karma where food is the issue or this is the issue? Is that really what you're going to act on and make happen? So I think once the North Node goes to 7, we really start to disconnect from a lot of the spiritually karmic dramas that we have been activating in our life, subconsciously probably, not even aware of it. So you really start to become, a way to say this is you start to really become aware of your spiritual issues that create your ego issues, like the karma that creates the ego issues. So it's going to be very private. I don't think you're going to see other people doing it, but you yourself will realize, oh, I think the reason why I was always committed to this was because I spiritually was running from that. And that sort of awakening allows you to step out of it. Chiron went retrograde last Friday on our last show, and I'm already feeling it as well, because Chiron was direct at 23, was saying, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. It'll work out. And that's Chiron trying to be a Virgo and heal and just try to reorganize and fix it. But now Chiron is backing off stage. Like, okay, it's up to you to know it's going to be all right. So the universe is putting on these stressors from these backing out, Pluto backing out of Capricorn, not this week, but it's coming up. And Chiron going retrograde, Saturn going retrograde. It's like, okay, you had these powerful forces pushing you to change. Now it's your turn, my son. Now it's your turn to do it. And that can be perhaps a challenge. But if you couple it with the fact that you love yourself like you never had before, you also have the resources to face that challenge. So we're really in a perfect setting here, a perfect setting. All right, so let's take a quick look. I do have some charts set up. And because we started a little late, just due to me coming on the 12th house, basically, I know the time of this show is a little wonky. We started a little late today, and I'm going a little late today too in my talk. So I'm really channeling a lot right now. But everything I'm picking up on feels really right. Share screen. They changed the share screen thing on this, and it's always got me a little paranoid. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, thanks for the whole music. I've got to get better at this particular thing. They changed the screen, so you can't necessarily see what you're trying to do. NT, thumbnail ping is what it comes up as. Intro. Oh, here it is. Thank you, God. Lord Jesus, Lord. Alrighty. And, coming up, Michelle Patterson. Super excited about our Astrological guest tonight because she talks to angels, and I love angels, and I love Devin, everything Devin has to say. So I want to talk to her and find out, is her and Devin saying the same things, and, their opinions on Michael and that sort of thing. It's going to be great. We're going to dive deep, and we're going to talk angels. But let's look at the charts for the week. This is the most important chart of the week, really, is the new moon in Leo. And as you can see, it happens at step 12. I'm going to scroll down here. Look at this moment. Again, at the moment of the new moon, because we calculate it at the moment of the apex, okay? We're at step 12 and 34 minutes, actually. The moon, this was calculated just a little bit late. But we're creating this new world. Okay, this is the new story where I'm not affected by this. I'm not brought down by that. Oh my God, I don't have to worry about this. This is great. So we have this sort of new love story about how our heart's going to go forward. And then Venus, the catcher's mitt, is at 29. I was saying earlier it was 28. Actually, at the new moon, it's 29. So you basically map out, from everything from the new story to how it ends. You sort of map out the whole story, how it wraps up. Is there a sequel? All that sort of stuff in this new moon. It's a really powerful new moon. Mercury is at the stationary degree of 4 degrees Virgo. Okay. And Mercury at 4 degrees Virgo, that's the degree of the retrograde, which means at the new moon, you are also saying inside your mind, if I'm going to create this whole new world, maybe I shouldn't realize myself as a jerk. Maybe I shouldn't call myself this. Maybe I shouldn't be on this side of my heart, like trying to punish me instead of trying to love me. So the mind right away realizes, oh my God, this changes everything. This is going to change everything inside of us. Now, to give you a little foresight, again, I'm going off these tangents tonight. This energy here, the South Node to Black Moon Lilith and soon Juno coming in there. This is a new mirage revolution that's going to happen. The mirage revolution where the way you treat yourself is going to change. We see it really starting to change. Our team that we have with Robbie and Kristen and Heather and Joe and Daiki Okamoto and Gwen English, we have a huge faculty now. I mean, I'm so proud of our team. We all talk about it come together, and we realize at this moment, what happens is you, from this moment of this new moon, you start this inner mirage revolution where you realize I have to change all my vows to myself, all my promises to myself. None of them are going to really account for anything because they're all based on the pain, the crime, the past, the karma. And that revolution carries through Labor Day. In fact, we call it in Labor Day because we think on Labor Day, you're going to be in labor with this new mirage with yourself. So it all starts right here. It's a very important slide, if you will. Look at Mars saying we're acting on new thoughts about ourselves. This is really interesting. Mars is at 9 and Jupiter's at 15, net 6. And of course, that's 69 there. And 69 is Aries and Libra. So our mind is really Zen. This is like a yin yang kind of moment here with Mars at 9 and Jupiter at 15. I think that's all I want to say about this chart. Okay, moving on. Then, of course, if Venus moves into Virgo, this happens later. So Venus is at 29 at the new moon. And then Venus goes, yeah, we do need to realize different things about ourselves. We do need to open up to thinking differently about ourselves. So Venus comes racing in. Notice this yod we have with Venus to Pluto and to Neptune. I mean, these are the most cosmic planets we have as far as powerful, Pluto and Neptune. And they are yachting into the new what I become and the new what I realize. So once Venus goes into Virgo, we are realizing some cosmic shift in our vibration. And we're not just thinking about ourselves. We're realizing this is the whole universe inside of me. You could say that I am the universe with Pluto there and Neptune there. So another powerful moment there with Venus goes into Virgo. And I think, like I said earlier, Venus going into Virgo this year, you're going to realize some shift you never realized about yourself. Going back to childhood, realizing that maybe dad was gay, stuff like that. Like, whoa, I never really realized that. So I think there's a lot of eye openers happening. Then, of course, Mercury retrogrades. And this is all Sunday, by the way. Like actually it's early in the morning that happens in the next day on Monday. But for the Pacific coast, it's still on Sunday after the new moon. And Mercury retrograde, of course, is at step 4 Virgo with Venus at 0. So this basically is, okay, this retrograde is I can no longer think about myself in the same way. I can no longer think of myself, realizing myself. Now that I realize this, I can't unsee that. And so we have this Mercury retrograde is going to be a real, and I don't want to go too deep in it because we've already talked so much tonight, but this Mercury retrograde is a real humdinger, like David the Thinker. We're going to be really deeply thinking differently about ourselves in profound ways that we never imagined we would. And I'm getting this feedback like at parties and when I'm out traveling and stuff. People are telling me, I never even thought I could be this. That's the kind of Mercury retrograde. People are going to they're going to realize things that they never realized they could realize. Is kind of what it is. Okay, Sun sextiles Jupiter. This is a big one. This happens on Wednesday. And what this basically is that this peacemaker, a peaceful mind and a peaceful heart come together. Oh. And what that means is we basically find our peace on hump day. Hump day is always a hump day. What's the hump? Oh my God, I found peace. Who would have thought? So I think Wednesday will feel good. And don't forget that Jupiter and the sun are the biggest objects in the solar system. So that means if these two agree, y'all are going to step in line. So it is a turning point, I think, between chaos in our thinking, Jupiter, and chaos in our heart to peace in our thinking and peace in our heart. And that's a nice takeaway. Then we have a moment where Venus and Mercury come together. No need to talk a lot about that, but basically what happens is you make some major realizations. And it's a realization because it's step 3 that changes what you believe about yourself. I used to believe I was destined to always be poor. Not anymore. Now with Venus conjoining Mercury retrograde in Virgo after all this karma. So again, profound realizations about yourself this week. And then we have, and I haven't brought this up yet, Lionsgate. Okay. Lionsgate. This week is Lionsgate. Now, I don't have the time to talk about Lionsgate like I want to, because I think Lionsgate has now moved to Cancer. Whole nother story. But Lionsgate is still 8/8 whatever year is still step 16 Leo. And step 16 Leo is the 6 nets to a 7. So it's spirit and love and spirit. You don't get much more powerful than when you combine your heart with spirit, right? That's why Lionsgate is still popular today, I think, even though that Sirius has moved to Cancer, is because 16 is the coming together of your heart and your spirit. Once those two are together, your ego's got no chance, So, in this whole new world, we come to this very magical Lionsgate where we realize our heart and our spirit are on different pages. And the last slide I have here is Juno entering into Libra. And I think I don't normally cover Juno. Juno is Jupiter's wife. Juno is like the synergy energy of a really good relationship. So wherever Juno goes, we're starting to build new relationships. But as I mentioned, that in Labor Day that's going to happen, Juno, basically the best relationship expert that the planets have is Juno. She's like the world's greatest wife. Okay, she can wife anybody, including Jupiter. And so this is interesting because, okay, Juno is now coming into this whole part of ourself that is renegotiating our marriage. And so we have an expert coming, which tells us, yes, we will be in labor in Labor Day. All right. Well, friends, that was a long one, but a good one. I know we're going to get a lot of quotes out of that one. But you probably want to know more about you. So go steep yourself some tea and let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, friends. Welcome to our tea time. I know you didn't have time to steep tea with that little intervention, that tiny little piece of music. But this is really where we sit down and we talk about how will this all affect all 12 signs. And this is where we get the basic horoscope of the week from, which, by the way, is always re-released on YouTube the following Tuesday. Now, I say that, one, to promote me, yes. But secondly, as a teacher, sometimes you got to look at something a couple of times to really see the arc of what it is. Right now, you're looking at the week ahead and going, I think this is what it'll be. I think this is what it'll be. But then when you get to Tuesday, it's like, it was not that at all. So I really recommend re-watching your horoscope. It's going to blow your mind. I'm getting all the feedback from people because especially now in times like today where we're changing so profoundly, you want to get that look at it, right? So today I'm going to talk about 4 areas of consciousness. 1, the new moon. So for all 12 signs, I'll talk about where does the new moon affect you? Where are you creating a new story? Where will your dreams come true? And that's what the new story is. I don't think I've been very clear about that. For those who are ready, the new story, that T, the new story is that your dreams will come true. They will. You were always wired to have your dreams come true. Why weren't they? Because your past and your karma and your trauma was killing them and killing off the life of the energy and distracting you and taking you down different pathways. But we've cleared all that up, which means if we really engage, a higher percentage than ever before on earth will have their dreams come true. And from what I understand, God's intention is for everyone's dreams to come true. You're just learning how to do the creative power. So for all 12 signs, where will your dreams come true? Then I'm going to talk about the fact that the Sun and Jupiter sextile, remember on Hump Day, where they agree at step 15 to have peace of mind and peace of heart. I'll talk about where the peace of mind aspect is for you. I just talked about the peace of heart with the sun and the moon and the new moon. Where's the thinking? Where's your thinking come into a peaceful alignment? Then I want to talk about the vibe. That is the Earth in Aquarius. Where are you determining your vibe of paradise? Where in your life is the vibe of paradise? I'll tell you in your horoscope. And then I want to talk about that space of Libra. We're going to be in labor and in Labor Day. The South Node and Black Moon Lilith and Juno now joining that party. I'm going to talk about where that's happening for you. In other words, where are you? What part of your life are you adjusting your relationship to yourself? Because we use one part to be sort of the adjuster, and then it all just sort of propagates to the rest of our soul. And as always, we'll start with the number 1 sign, but step 9, Aries. Aries, your dreams are coming true with creativity and children. So when it comes to creative, romantic too, it's not marriage. We're talking about the romance. So we're talking about the romance, the honeymoon, all that stuff. That part of your life is the second decan of Leo. That part of your life is going to change and your dreams are going to come true if you've aligned yourself for them to come true. If you're still fighting with yourself, they'll come true as much as you are fighting with yourself, right? This means without a doubt, yes, you should go for it. Yes. I don't care what it is. I want to build my own Taj Mahal. Do it. Okay. It might take a couple lifetimes. Your great-grandchildren might have to finish it, but you do need to follow whatever those dreams are right now. And this is interesting because, oh God, I'm so philosophical tonight. Aries are the trailblazers, right? They're the ones that will go out there and they will try it first and they will get dirty and they'll come back and go, it's hell, come back. It was hell. It was hell. And what are they trailblazing? True love, dreams coming true. Kind of gives you a sign of where the world is going. Now, when it comes to Jupiter and that sextile, the heart falling in love with the fact that my dreams will come true for Aries is your mind is on board. So your mind is not arguing. That's the sextile. And my mind didn't argue like it always does. So you're going to come into a peace of mind, peace of communication, probably taking out some of the fire and the spit in some of those communications. The Earth in Aquarius, where do you need to create the vibe of paradise? In the world. So you need to create a world of belonging. That world could be your world at school, your world at home, your world here, your world there. That world, whatever you call your worlds, must become paradise. It can become paradise with a lot of flowers and a cool couch. It can become paradise with the right people. There's a billion ways it can become paradise, but your world needs to feel like paradise. And by the way, that means, yeah, if you're living in a shifty world, move to paradise. Go to the beach, go to the mountains, go to the nice place. And then, of course, the South Node and Black Moon Lilith and future Juno is basically saying, hey, when it comes to coming together for yourself, you really must do it for yourself. You must, be there for yourself. You must re-architect your marriage with yourself. You cannot approach yourself at all the way you used to. And actually on LOL, I'm going to leave a plug. We're going to talk about how heroism is dying on the planet. There are no longer going to be heroes, like Spider-Man. We don't feel like it. I think that's why Marvel is over the top. There's not going to be that anymore because we're all going to take care of ourselves. And Aries are trailblazing that right now. All right, I'm going to take a sip. Taurus, your dreams are coming true with your feelings. And for Tauruses, they moo a lot. Like I said, and that's your feelings. You're like, oh, I have to do this. Oh my God, I got to do the taxes again. Tauruses are always like, we work hard, but we whine, we moo about it. That's because our feelings always bring us down. But now our feelings are going to tell us our dreams can come true, that you can come true if your feelings are in the right place. And actually, you don't have to manage the dream. You manage the feelings for the dream to come true. And they'll be true for all the 12 signs. I'll tell you where you have to manage. So your dreams are coming true with your feelings, which means I never felt this way before. I never felt this could happen. I never felt that could happen. It's a really powerful new moon where Tauruses are going to feel good, right? Jupiter sextile says, not only do you feel good, but you're making money. Because for Jupiter in Gemini right now, it's in the house of finance for Taurus. And you could make a Taurus more happy than hearing that they're going to make money and feel good, you know? So I think it's a good money building time for Tauruses. But, you know, if you're working hard, it's not going to affect your feelings because they're sextiling coming together. The Earth in Aquarius says, Taurus, you must create a new vibe around self-discipline. Ain't that the truth? I think I'm guilty of what I was talking about, where I'm hard on myself and I make myself work really hard. That's all self-discipline technique, right? So it's time to create a different self-discipline vibe, maybe kind of Montessori, where you're just like, oh, Montessori, do whatever you want, cow, roam around the planet. But it's time for a new vibe around making yourself work. And then the south node of the mirage is around, for Tauruses, is around their health. Okay, so Tauruses have to have a new relationship to health. And I know this for Taurus, they tend to indulge, you know, they will not give up their vices. And so as a result, Tauruses do pull themselves, you know, because they want to have the experience of the joy and the good food and the steak and the ice cream and all that stuff, their body takes a hit. So you got to rewire or renegotiate your mirage vows with your body, Taurus. All right, let me try to drink water. Gemini. Gemini, you are creating, your dreams are coming true in your mind, which is perfect for Geminis, right? Like that's the best place for dreams. That's where they are all the time. They're always off dreaming, right? They're off somewhere else. I got a Gemini sun. He's somewhere else always. So you're going to create in your mind, in thinking and communication. This is where the dream will happen, by thinking differently, by communicating differently. Don't say, well, if it doesn't sell, say when it does sell, right? So it's time to change your thinking around dreams coming true. The sextile of Jupiter says, and Jupiter in Gemini, your behavior will be in alignment with your thinking. That means you're going to do what you say. So this sextile helps you do what you say between these two. Then, of course, the Earth in Aquarius. Where do you create the vibe? You create the vibe in your belief. You have to have a certain vibe in your beliefs that will counterbalance your thinking. So if your beliefs are sort of, you know, think of like the beliefs of like a wise wizard or a wise professor. There's a vibe there like, oh, he's really smart, that vibe. You got to find the smart vibe that believes in yourself, and that smart vibe will keep your thoughts in alignment. And then, of course, the South Node in Black Moon Lilith, for Geminis, it's around self-nurturing of the feelings. The way you nurture your feelings is inadequate. And I just talked to a Gemini today, actually in the last 24 hours, who was talking about how his feelings go amok. And I'm like, Geminis don't pay attention to their feelings. They like to live in their mind. So you've got to renegotiate your mirage to how you feel about yourself. All right. I don't know if between every drink. Cancer, every horoscope. Cancer, you are creating a new, your dreams are coming true as far as your money and manifestation is concerned. So when it comes to, productivity and money. So it's how you produce and how you make money. That's where the dreams are going to come true. So Cancer's about to make some money. Okay. They're going to do really well. And that's because I think they're also coming out of codependent relationships, and they're cutting out of places in society that they don't belong there, because they're trying to, you know, they're the nice ones and they're trying to help the ones who aren't nice. So it's now time to make money. It's now time to honor your values. Time, whatever your dreams are with money, you're being told to do it now. And it's interesting because Cancers tend to not do that. As a result, they're usually interested in helping others. That sextile to Jupiter is with spirituality. So basically, you're actually linking spirituality with money. All right. Spirituality and money are on the same page. That's revolutionary in itself, that they're on the same page. Usually they went against each other, right? And sort of fought against each other. The Earth in Aquarius says, you've got to find the right vibe with self-trust. You got to feel, what is the vibe of trusting myself? Memorize that vibe. And anytime you doubt, go back to the vibe. of that self-trust vibe. So finding the self-trust vibe. And then, of course, the South Node in Black Moon Lilith, where you are getting a whole new negotiation of how you think, is actually around. Actually, these have been off by 1. Yeah, these went off by 1. There's a little weird Mercury retrograde mistake. I'm seeing Mercury retrograde mistakes in all the stuff going on right now. So going back here, you are going to have to create a new relationship to yourself when it comes to self-nurturing. It's actually you that gets self-nurturing, not Gemini. So I'm not sure I'm going to correct this because we can't go back and edit. The last 2 are off by 1. But this is ironic, right? Because Cancers want to make everyone feel better, and you don't know how to make yourself feel better, or the way you make yourself feel better is kind of antiquated and not really on the up and up. So you're in labor with a new self-nurturing approach to yourself, a new self-nurturing marriage to yourself, which means basically a new approach to your feelings at large. Leos, happy birthday, Leos. I wonder how Leos are feeling. They've been kind of off on their own. Your dreams are coming true when it comes to your personality. Oh, you're going to love that. You are going to become that star, basically. Your dreams are going to come true through your personality, your behavior, the way you respond, how glittery you are, how magical it is to interact with you. This is where your dreams are going to come true, is really in your performance. That's the way to put it. When it comes to performing, your dreams are going to come true. That's what the universe is saying. Now, sextiling to Jupiter says, not only will your dreams come true, but you're going to be popular, because Jupiter is around belonging for you. So belonging and behavior go together, which means you are always behaving the way you belong for the situation. You'll show up in Rome, you act like a Roman. You show up there, you act like that. That is now fused to where your behavior will not mess you up with your reputation. Your reputation, your behavior are now working together as a team. That's powerful. The vibe aspect has to do with your mirage. So you have to memorize the vibe of how you feel when you stand in front of a mirror, in front of yourself. That's the vibe you have to change, and really make sure you memorize that vibe and you live in that vibe all the time. And whenever you see yourself in the mirror, which I know you're in the mirror probably 5 million times a day, you have to have a certain vibe, and you have to make sure that vibe comes along. And then it's with self-talk that you have to change your mirage. The way you talk to yourself is old school. It is Archie Bunker. It is a wife beater t-shirt kind of attitude. Like you're like a wife beater t-shirt when it comes to the way you talk to yourself. And you will be in Labor Day around the way you talk to yourself. So listen to how you talk to yourself and get on top of that right now. All right. Virgo, your dreams are coming true with fate and spirituality. So I think this will be one of the more magical of all 12 signs. I think Virgo's gonna be like, oh my God, who would have known the coincidences and things like that. So Virgos are really gonna feel like their dreams are coming true with fate. Like the house of a lifetime, the man of a lifetime, God must love me. And just hear that one more time. God must love me. I think Virgos have always felt like God did not love them because they saw all the flaws with all their realizations. So you could just say this is the ending of that. They're no longer feeling like you're punished by the universe or punished by your karma. This sextiles to self-discipline, which means not only do you have faith in this dream, you can go do something with it. It's not just a pipe dream. You actually will go do something. You will actually get yourself to, get to college, to apply for the job, whatever it takes. So it's not just some, prayer in church. It's something you realize and make happen in your career and your self-discipline. Where the vibe thing has to be with you is with your health. Your health, your body, that's where you have to find the right vibe, the healthy vibe. Now, isn't that ironic? Because you are the healers, and the healers have to find the healthy vibe. I love how it all goes together. This also deals with stress too, by the way. Stress ruins your vibe, and it ruins your health too. It's the biggest killer, right? So finding the right vibe with health. And then for you, you are renegotiating your mirage to yourself with self-worth. What you value in yourself, what you don't value in yourself, your whole economy of self-worth, it's old school, it's antiquated, we're throwing it away. You're going to be in labor with a new value system for yourself at the end of August. All right. Libra. Ooh, the Libras are changing. I've been talking to lots of Libras lately. Libra, your dreams are going to come true in society. You have, and this is so interesting because Libras are always backstage, behind the hero, the one, the woman behind the man, or the person behind the president. And God's saying, nope, your dreams come true. It's you now. You are the one, right? What really comes to mind here is Kamala Harris. She's a Libra, and now she's running for president, right? So it's like, whoa, she's a good example of dreams coming true in society. So you have dreams coming true in society. This is tied to, with Jupiter, believing in yourself. So you not only see your dreams coming true in the world, but you believe this is the way it should be. You don't feel like an imposter. You don't feel like you don't know enough. It really feels like, yes, this is true without a doubt, which is great. I mean, think about Libra. I don't know. And what this is saying is, no, without a doubt, there's nothing to talk about. The vibe has to be with your creativity. You have to find the right creative vibe. This is sort of like an art room teacher, or a music teacher. There's like a certain vibe to that whole environment. You got to find your vibe of creativity, and you have to change your mirage when it comes to the way you treat yourself. It's really ironic, but Libras treat themselves like shift. When you get to know behind the scenes, they won't let you know that. You have to get in their world. But the way you treat yourself is old school. Okay, it's like laying the hammer down. So you'll be in labor with treating yourself differently till the end of August. Scorpios, you are having this new moon when it comes to your career and your legacy. It's now time to have your dreams coming true in your career, success in your career, success in your family, which is your legacy. Maybe you built the world's biggest jigsaw puzzle. That's your legacy, but your dreams are coming true with legacy, which is very exciting because Scorpios have so much integrity, right? So you want the good guys to win. This ties into self-trust with Jupiter. So you trust yourself and you're successful, a successful person that trusts themselves. That's what the sextile is. So I think that's pretty much bulletproof. The vibe, listen to me, Scorpio, that has to change is with your feelings. Scorpio's feeling vibe is always disrupting the rest of them. That emotion is why the stinger will sting. So you have to find the right vibe, that paradise vibe. Find the paradise vibe of your feelings so that you can go back to that vibe when you need to. And when it comes to rewiring your marriage, where you're dysfunctional is with inner faith. You're not a good marriage partner when it comes to faith. You're on, you're off again, you're cheating on yourself, you're going back to it. So you'll be in labor for new faith in yourself. All right. Sagittariuses. This is a big one and not surprising. Your dreams will come true, Sagittariuses, with what you believe. So basically, you're going to realize you were right. Oh my God, I was right. I think a lot of you think that anyways, but Sagittarius are very skeptical. They're pretty much often on their deathbed still debating what was true. But what this is saying is, nope, you're going to believe now, which tells you if all the sages and the teachers on the planet now believe, then suddenly we're all pushed in that direction. So they're going to change the world's belief from their own personal ones. This sextiles into your partnerships and marriage. So who you are in relationships is getting along with who you are in beliefs. So there's no more arguing at the dinner table about who God is, that type of thing. Your beliefs and the way you relate to other people are in harmony. Where you have to manage your vibe is in your thinking. And this is so true with the Sagittarius I know. Your mind takes you to dark places and you let the vibe sink really fast. You have to find the paradise vibe in your mind, like calm blue ocean, something like that. Excuse me, I guess that affected me. Calm blue ocean brings up everything. Excuse me. And when it comes to how you relate and how you have a marriage change, it's in social belonging. Where you belong in the world, where you don't belong in the world, who your friends are. The way you treat yourself when you're in public is not good, is what the astrology is saying. It needs a new vow behind it. And on to Capricorns. Capricorns, you are going to fall in love with trust. You're going to have your dreams come true with trust. And if you know Capricorns, they don't even trust when there's a signed contract. They're like, oh, they still could sue us. Capricorns are always waiting for the shoe to drop. They don't really have bulletproof trust. They do sometimes, but sometimes it leads to like the fool card. So you're going to finally trust. And that is the dream coming true, because when you trust, you pretty much are unstoppable because you're so determined anyways and responsible. So this revolution of dreams coming true with trusting and also intimacy. We're going to see Capricorns getting really close to other people. Just saying, mark my words. Now, Jupiter sextiling that says you're going to tie in trust with a quality lifestyle. No more work-life balance that's out of balance. Work will be in its place. Daily life will be in its place, and you will trust everything that's in its place. So this is a real stabilizing of the Capricorn energy. Where you have to get the right vibe, can you guess where it is? Where your vibe is off? Money. Money and productivity, you have the wrong vibe. You've got the old school vibe, I think. The old school vibe of conquer, be on top, acquire, sell the company and then, buy the company and then sell in the pieces. Your vibe around money is not yet at the right place. So it's time to change your vibe around self-worth and around money. And then when it comes to a revolution of your marriage, the way you discipline yourself is no longer appropriate. And I've seen Capricorns do it. They'll worry, they'll go into this dark tunnel. And this is it's kind of a game that they play sometimes themselves just to get them to try harder and work harder. The little games you play with yourself to work harder, being discontinued by the universe at the end of August. All right. Then Aquarius. Aquariuses are going to have their dreams come true in relationships. This is like the most bachelor of all of signs. You meet like an old guy in a bar who's never been married. He's an Aquarius. That's the sign that holds out and doesn't ever fall in love and get married if they don't have to, right? I know a lot of situationships that are Aquariuses, right? So not anymore. In the age of Aquarius, Aquariuses get sappy and fall in love. So your dreams come true when it comes to marriages, partnerships. This is also creative partnerships, business partnerships. Dreams are going to come true. Jupiter in Gemini says, not only are your dreams coming true in marriage, but your dreams are going to come true in creativity and with children. So it could be marriage and children, or creativity. You create a film, you create this, you create that. And your creative side is in complete sync with your partnership side. That means that your wife or husband is not coming into you in the art studio and yelling at you like, where are you? Why aren't you at the table? Your marriage and your creativity are working together. Where your vibe has to change is in your behavior and your responses. And I got to say, damn, that is true. The Aquas are still acting like the old Aquas. Their vibe is still sort of standoffish to some degree. If you know them really closely, you see that they are changing. But if you see them walk down the sidewalk, same old vibe, same old Aqua we've always known. So you got to change your vibe around your behavior when you say something, when you do something. And when you are having a marriage revolution, it is actually with your belief in yourself. And I've seen this too in the close Aquariuses I know, that you don't always believe in yourself by default. You will literally use your Aqua revolutionary energy to throw yourself under the bus. So you've got to learn to believe in yourself in a whole new way. And then finally, the Pisces. Pisces, you're going to have your dreams come true with daily life. And this can be a lot of things. It could be that you finally heal from something. It could be that you finally have the best job you've always wanted. It could be that you finally have the house on the beach, that your daily life is like perfect. And that's great because Pisces are here to bring Holy Spirit into the world. And if your life is crap, how are you going to do that, right? So you are stepping into the love vibe. You are walking into that sort of really kind of a 5D expression of life. Jupiter is actually going to tie into your feelings. So you're not only going to feel good in your body, you're going to feel good in your emotions, and your feelings will not sabotage your body, and your body will not sabotage your feelings. So this is a very powerful stabilizing point for the Pisces. Now, where your vibe has to change is with spirituality. Your attitude about God and spirituality basically is not the right vibe. You got to find the paradise vibe about spirituality. And so many Pisces, by the way, have past lives where they were, hurt from spirituality or organized religion. And so they're carrying a lot of wounds there. You got to really find the paradise vibe about God and spirituality. And where you have marriage problems is with self-trust. Okay. You are learning now to trust yourself in new ways. Your relationship to trusting yourself is really bad. Or old school. I don't want to use the word good and bad. It's just old school. And maybe that is you punish yourself or write your own name on the board or whatever, but you have self-trust issues and God's saying, get that shift together by the end of August. So a powerful time for the Pisces. All right, friends. Well, I've been wordy, but you know what? It's been a deep day and we've got even more deep coming for you here up in a minute here. Keep streaming. We're going to take a little intermission with some random videos that we put together because we don't have the Zodiac weather. And we come back, we have Michelle Patterson on to talk about angels. Keep streaming.
Audio Jungle.
I believe what's next is what we came here to do, honestly. I honestly believe this is a divine appointment.
There's no blueprint for what we're about to do.
We're the new generation of evolving our species.
So, we're going to talk about boundaries.
You are much closer to making a dent in social media than you think.
Yeah, my. All right. Welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented light workers and innovative influencers of our time. We're always interested in the variety of reading modalities, and today we have an aspect that we don't hear from very often. Michelle Patterson is an angel medium, YouTuber, and writer who connects angels and humans with warmth, wisdom, humor, and when needed, some tough love. Her YouTube channel, which she began in 2013, features insightful readings and uplifting guidance, making viewers feel like they are conversing with an old friend. After experiencing a profound awakening, Michelle founded Angel Souls 444 to help individuals find clarity, peace, and a deeper understanding of their inner light. Her mission is to create a supportive space for others to embrace their spiritual journeys, even when they are messy and challenging. So with waves of love and light, please welcome our guest today, Step 20 Scorpio, angel medium, Michelle Peterson. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I might have said Patterson. I hope I didn't, but
It's Patterson.
it is Patterson. Oh, I
It
guess
is
the way that's a typo. Okay, so that has a typo. My heart was like, something's wrong there. So thank you.
No
How are
worries.
you? It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm well. I'm excited
Yeah?
to be doing this and be talking about angels.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I think so. It begs the question right off the bat is, how did angels come into your life? Like, what brought this topic into your life to the point of it's now a part of your character?
Yeah. I was one of those people that you hear about all the time. The angels were around me when I was a kid, thought it was normal. Then I discovered it wasn't normal. And so I started hiding it so nobody would know that I was a weirdo. And then I want to say it was probably around 2012, they really started coming in a big way. So it wasn't just about me communicating with them for myself, but kind of pushing me to go out and start being a messenger for others. And I started getting some really weird angel signs that I love telling people about. And that's how I started Angel Souls, actually.
So when you say coming into your life as a child, I mean, can you be very, very specific of what that means? Is it a vision, third eye blast, tapping you on the shoulder? What is it? How do you know angels are coming into your life like you described?
As a child, they were just always there. So it wasn't with my physical side. I think that's an important distinction to make.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like this inner sight. I knew they were there. I would imagine a lot of parents hear their children talk about, imaginary friends, that sort of thing. Probably my parents would have described it as such, but it was just normal. It was as normal as if your friends and family were in the room. And the thing that was really extraordinary about them was that they carry this type of love that's really hard to access in the physical body. And as a child, I was still pretty open. I was a very weird kid by most people's standards. Like I remember, I call it a dream now, but now I kind of wonder, but levitation, that seemed normal, right? We should be able to do that. Why can't I do that in this physical body? Something's off.
You
Something's
felt
weird.
you felt
So
that way as a child?
I'm sorry.
You felt that way as a child?
Did.
And you felt that came from sort of an angelic knowing that was coming through you? Is that what you're saying?
I think there was a sensitivity and an openness, and that made it so that I could perceive these angels and feel
I
them
see.
around. But yeah, I was just, I think, yeah, just really, really open. And so they were always a big comfort because one of the things I usually talk about is how just over the many years that I've done this work, a lot of people who are light workers or just very sensitive souls, they have seen the dark underbelly of humanity. They have gone through some of the toughest stuff. And when that was happening when I was a kid, they brought me a lot of comfort. And
Mm.
so even when the world around me just did not make sense, and as a kid, it did not make sense to me. I didn't understand why people would be cruel to one another.
Mm.
Why are people feeling bad about themselves? That always really bothered me too.
Mhm.
And why is so much happening? These
Mhm.
angels would be there. And there was a time when I shut them out.
Oh, really? Why was that?
I was actually, it was out of anger and
At them?
at them. Yeah.
Oh,
Because something had happened. Well, several things had happened.
that
And
they
it
had
was,
allowed to happen kinda thing? Is that
I think I thought of it that way. Or
yeah.
why didn't you
Like, they
protect?
should have saved me or kept it from happening.
You should have protected me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I can even feel it now, the messaging coming through that it's okay, this is part of your plan.
Mm.
And as a kid, I was getting that. And I
Wow.
said, "This is weird. You make me weird because I can feel you and sense you, and I
Oh.
don't fit in this world." I think I attributed not fitting in to having these things happen. So I shut that door and tried to just wing it as an extra sensitive human. If anybody out there watching has ever tried to do that, you know how well that goes. So yeah, that was the childhood.
Yeah, interesting, and I just wanna go back to how the angels come in again because I wanna help people identify that that's an angelic voice,
Mm,
coming through, and I can just describe my experience and maybe you can bounce off it, but when I hear voices from the angels, I'm saying what they're saying with my voice, but I'm not writing it. So I don't know if that's you have a similar thing. It's like I'm talking to myself, but I didn't come up with what I'm talking to myself about. Is that
yeah, yeah.
okay?
That's a very good way, and I think a common way that you can receive angelic messaging. And I always say, "Hey, I know it's angels because I would have never come up with that," like you just said.
Yeah. It's
That's
genius, like, and I'm not that smart, yeah.
I always say that I'm like, I would have never imagined that kind of wisdom, and that's just it. Is just this immense wisdom that comes through. So yes, that is one way of receiving. Do we want to get into
I
all the
guess we segue into all of them. I mean, it seems
sure,
appropriate and maybe angelically inspired.
sure, maybe, yes. So, I think with angel communication, well, first, if you don't mind me just kind of putting this out there to everyone who's watching,
Go for it.
you have angels. They don't actually go away. I was a kid and said, "Leave me alone." And so they left me alone. They have to honor your free will
Free
choices.
will. Mhm.
So if you're in a low space, and we're in a low vibration, it can make it difficult for us to perceive the angels. But it doesn't mean that they've gone away. They don't
Mhm.
abandon you, they don't give up on you. As a matter of fact, we get more of them in our lives, guardian angels, as we go through things. So we can
Mm.
talk about that if you want. But as far as how to perceive, everybody's going to be different. It's very individual. Uh, but even if let's say you go into meditation, this is usually the easiest way for someone to raise their vibration so that they can open their heart and let whatever clear that you're working with sort of bloom and blossom and take it in that way. But even if you don't have like some profound experience, as people would say, the angel doesn't like show up in your living room. Okay. Well,
Mhm.
there's good reason for that because you would freak out if the angel
Yeah.
showed up. They need you to experience the message. So, based on the person and even where you are at any given moment, they'll communicate with you in a way that is not going to scare you, that is going
Mm.
to help you receive the love. So, for me, initially it was very clear, sentient kind of way of communicating with them as I was opening back up. And then it became clairaudience. That was interesting. If anybody's clairaudient, you know how that goes,
So
right?
you're hearing Michael in your head, is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah, yeah. You just all of a sudden you hear this like and angels, if you're clairaudient and you're dealing with an archangel, okay,
yeah.
they don't have egos, so they're very direct.
Yes. Like Metatron, I find is slap in the face.
Big. Yeah, it's a big energy and it's just poof, right there.
It's
So
absolute. No compromise.
yes, yes, which is kind of refreshing. I love working with
It
him
is.
for a reason, you know?
He
So,
feels safe, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Really safe, like he's got your back, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, like a big guardian,
Mhm.
and a lot of people perceive him as being quite tall,
Yes.
so, you know,
Over the top.
over the top tall. And
Yeah.
you're talking about that big energy that comes at you. This is kind of going into answering that original question of how we can perceive them, because that can be for some people intimidating. So let's
Yeah.
take Metatron as an
Yeah.
example. Let's say
I
you
think he's.
haven't really opened up even to your guardian angels,
Mm-hmm.
and you meditate with Metatron. Well, he's going to come in, and it might feel very intimidating. It might take your breath away.
Mm-hmm.
You might feel lightheaded, right? Because that's all about the frequency matching.
Mm.
Okay. Now, we could sit here all night talking about different ways that we can
I
connect.
know. I know. I
But
just want to get enough of a perspective that
sure,
people can feel empowered to make the call. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, if you haven't ever worked with angels and you're not familiar with what clair ability you have,
Mm-hmm.
there's a very simple technique. Let's just call it a technique. And that's a meditation. You can do whatever kind of breathing works for you, even counts in, even counts out, box breathing, whatever you want to do. And just imagine a point of light in your heart
Mm.
and allow that meditation, right? So every time you take a breath in, it expands, it expands, it expands. What that's going to do, not only is that going to help kind of clear away your bad day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And help you rest, relax, reset your nervous system, but it's
Yeah.
going to expand your energy field,
Mm.
raising your frequency. And guess who's there waiting? Your guardian angels.
Mm.
Now, I don't know the mind of God, obviously, but in
You
my
don't have the
experience,
blueprint?
what was that?
You don't have the blueprint?
I don't have a blueprint.
How
I
it
wish
all
I
works? The architecture? Yeah.
right. But a lot of people are born in with two,
Two
and I
guardian angels.
two guardian angels. And I'm very comforted, but when other angel mediums kind of say that same thing, I always think it's interesting when we're picking up on similar things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So one is usually really chatty, and one is usually, I call them mission control. They're kind of like your producers, right? Like they're behind the
Mm.
scenes taking care of business, right?
Right.
So that's usually what we have. So when people are doing this technique, just know that there's at least two there. And the way you're going to perceive, at first, for some people, you might just feel like there's a presence or a
Mm.
peaceful feeling.
Mhm.
Usually it's love,
Yeah. Unconditional love.
unconditional, like the
Can't,
kind
you
you
can't do anything wrong ever in their eyes.
exactly. And you know it. You
Yeah.
remember this from somewhere, but it's been
Mhm.
like long gone for a minute, like that sort of thing. So that's one way of bringing them in and letting them into your energy field. But what ends up happening, sometimes people get scared or intimidated and they shut it out. Or if they're in a really bad space and they can't accept the love, they might shut it down. So there's a lot of different variables with that. The other thing that could happen as you're doing this meditation, again, there's so many other techniques that someone could do. You could start hearing them. And it's what you were describing. It's using your voice, like your internal voice,
Mhm.
to bring a message, but it's going to come through in words. Clairaudience also has to do with hearing messages in music.
Oh, I never heard that before.
Yeah. So
So is that when a song play like a Billy Joel song just plays in your head all of a sudden? That's sort of ironic to what you were just thinking?
yep.
Now, do
Yep.
you believe, just not to segue, but I heard Sandalphon is Heaven's DJ. Like,
I was just going to bring him up.
okay. They're puppeting us right now, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Look at this. Look at how they work.
Yeah, it's funny. Perfect.
It is.
So
Well,
music.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna say you go ahead. Music and yeah.
Yeah, the music. And, so like, for example, I remember one time I was really upset about something and I was just having a hard time kicking, through it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, asking the angels, like, help me understand this. And in my head popped the song, Let It Go. And
Huh.
it just kept going over. And I'm like, okay, very funny.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. They have a great sense
Captain
of
Obvious. Yeah.
so that's another way that clairaudience can express, or and this is probably after tonight's show, people who are watching, you can experiment with this. Have a thought and see if it repeats on the TV. If it's a message for you,
Huh.
it's going to repeat back.
Interesting.
Do this all the time. It's really fun.
Okay, let's dive deeper in that. That you have a thought that you see echoed somewhere else.
Yep, it echoes back to you somehow.
Yeah, like on a license plate, a billboard, it's just you see it. You happen to see it. It's also you happen to see it. Like if I hadn't looked out the window that one moment, there's a weird thing with timing. I feel like angels tap us on the shoulder to look at stuff at certain times. Like, look over
Absolutely.
there. Like, there'll be times I look over and I would have normally not looked over. And I don't know what made me look over. But then when I did, I was like, oh my God, that's profound.
Absolutely. That happens to me all the time. And now I've
Hmm.
just kind of gotten used to going, okay, okay, you're nudging me. It's like
Yeah.
this loving nudge. And I'm like looking around and then I'll see it and, a smile, that they drew my attention to that. But I want to go along those lines. That's an excellent point that you bring up, being kind of guided to look at something, if it's repeating numbers or something like that.
Hmm.
One of the questions I get asked all the time is, how am I supposed to interpret these signs? As I was saying before, angels want us to experience the message.
Mm.
They have to bypass an ego, an ego consciousness. So in order to do that, we have to, it's just how our brains are wired. So that's the repeating numbers. We're going to get triggered by that. So there is such a thing as advertising as well, though, where they know how the human brain works and they're going to use that
Mm.
to draw your attention. So how do we differentiate? If you're feeling that loving nudge that you're talking about, and you
Mm.
turn and you look, you'll feel this little, I don't know. I guess for everybody it could be different, but for me, it's kind of this joyous tingle, and I can't help but smile. When it's
Mm.
advertising and just advertising, it's not going to have any life force behind it. The other thing that you want to do is, if you do feel that tingle, sit with it. Don't overthink it. Sit with
Mm.
it and allow the clarification to come through, because they'll give that to you as well.
The clarification. What
Mhm.
about goosebumps?
Absolutely.
That's angels, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, I mean, as a reader, I do readings, every day,
Mhm.
and it'd be like, I can feel the brilliant idea come through, and I'm like, oh, that was brilliant. That came from somewhere else. And then both me and the client are like, oh, goosebumps. And it's like we both goosebump, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like there's an angelic coordination going on there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, to me, that's just the signal. And we hear a lot of readers of various esoteric arts talk about the
Mm.
tingles.
Mhm.
I always think that that's confirmation, but it's
Yes.
also having to do with, like, to me, it's also maybe like an energy shift or something.
Frequency change.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like your energy field just got a charge up or something. I don't know, but yeah, that can absolutely be confirmation as well. Yeah.
Mhm. Interesting. To me, it's kind of like, like there's sort of like I told you, we've been telling you for weeks. Like, to me, it's often that, or an absolute confirmation you can't deny,
Absolutely.
because we all live without goosebumps most of the time. They just come randomly, right?
Mhm.
That give me goosebumps. Um, what about dreams? Do angels come through dreams and you
Absolutely.
feel? Hmm.
Absolutely. One of the things that I encourage people to do, especially if they're having, let's say, God forbid, someone's going through grief. Okay. That lowers your frequency, obviously.
Hmm.
You're going through your human experience
Yeah.
for whatever reason, like, you got to go through that. It can be really hard to bring yourself up to perceive your angels. Again, they're there. As a matter of fact, you're going to have some more angels coming in to help you through that grief. But what you can do is, as you're drifting off into sleep, it makes it a little bit easier, right?
Hmm.
So that brainwave state that's going on there, you're calming the ego down. That's a
Hmm.
perfect time to contact.
Mm.
I do my work as I'm going to sleep. I have a
Mm.
prayer practice I do, and then I'll meditate, and then I will open it up to them, work with me as I'm drifting off to sleep, work with me in my dreams. And then when I wake up, I just see, was there a message? Is there something I'm
Mm.
supposed to do? But I also do this all the time. So maybe that's not everybody who's going to be doing that. But yeah, I think they absolutely can work with us through our dreams. It does get into another maybe lengthy conversation about differentiating what was just a dream and what was an angelic.
Mhm.
Even I'm hearing interference, like angelic interference. So sometimes they can help work on our soul's contract a little bit.
Mhm.
Dream state, if you're done with something, the karma's done, whatever it is that you're clearing away to sort of reset that. But just the Cliff's notes here, when you wake up, it feels like you were somewhere else.
Somewhere else?
It feels like you were somewhere else. Or like you just visited a friend and got home.
Hmm.
That feeling.
What about, prayer? Do you have any advice for a prayer getting to the angels?
So that's, you mean praying to angels?
Yeah, I mean I mean, we pray to our guides, we pray to our parents, like, is there any kind of concrete method that you have where you're like, this is how I make sure it gets to the angels or a specific angel? Spin around twice, tap your head 3 times. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Something. There must be some magic formula.
There's a magic formula. Actually, it's interesting just for me personally because I was always told that you're not supposed to pray to angels.
Huh?
Yeah,
You
and
still think that?
no, I don't think that anymore. But it just made me think of that, like how it was like you can invoke them or and request that they come to you, but praying is supposed to be left for worship.
Oh, wow. That must have been at church, right?
Yeah. So
That's our job. The Catholics. Are,
right,
right.
right. So as far as the invitation,
hmm
it actually surprise, it's nothing complicated. It's a matter of asking. Now, I have some things because I'm paranoid a little bit. I'm going to admit it. I will full on say, let's bring Archangel Michael in right now. Archangel Michael of God's purest love and light. Can you come to us now? Shield us, protect us. Let us feel your presence. Thank you. I love you. And so it is. So I'll put some extra high frequency words around it because we're in a duality consciousness.
hmm
Got that shadow side to us. We can dip into that. If you leave yourself open, there are fallen angels out there. And there are other energies that could try to sneak in claiming to be Michael, claiming to be Gabriel.
Right.
It's not the same. And then doing some damage, getting you not feeling loved or whatever. But yeah, to me, it's as simple as that. Some people, to me, it's more about the individual. If you are someone who loves ritual, the way I've taken in the information, the angels always say, we don't need that. We don't need the ritual. That's for the human ego consciousness to calm and be rhythmical or something like that, so that you get into a space where you can be more open.
Mesmerizing, kind of. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you are going to do something like an altar, roses are good.
Okay.
We do have our little tools. The high frequency scent, it draws in angels, also jasmine. There are other things that we could do that could help someone open and connect. But as you see, there's just so many different takes on this.
I'm sure the angels will take any path as long as there's like real contact. Like I don't even think they're subscribed to only one method. Like get in line over there. I have found in my own personal life, I have a couple of angel miracles without a doubt. Like I won't take up this show with those stories, but I will say to anyone who doubts this, pray and see for yourself.
Absolutely.
Don't take my word for it. But I found that the miracles always happened when my heart was filled with love and filled with my inner child and my joy. Sometimes it's me crying, please, like my heart crying, please, from the core of my authenticity. And it almost feels like they read hearts, not minds, is what it feels like for me. That's what it feels like. They don't really look at our thoughts. I don't even know if they hear the words of the prayer. It feels like, at least with my relationship to them, they're like, they're digging in my heart energy and they're communicating with me that way. Have you had that experience?
Absolutely. And that is such a beautiful way to put that. And thank you for saying that.
Oh, thank you.
That's
Came from
absolutely
them.
good. Right. Yeah,
Right.
you got it exactly right. That's exactly what they do. There's, if someone has, let's say you're going through a job loss, okay? We in our minds, we're going to be thinking about that, we're going to be hurt. And like we were saying, like, oh gosh, low self-esteem now because I messed up or whatever. If you're closing off your heart, they'll still communicate with you through the mind, but it's more to help you clear that away so that you can get back in touch with your heart. Because this is the power play right here. The mind and the heart, when they're online with one another, then you're really open. That actually gets us into another way of perceiving the angels and bringing in messages from them. When you're in that heart space, now you can receive not just through one of the clairs, but through a whole being experience. So you're enveloped in the message. You don't need to put words to it. You don't even need to try to define what the emotion is. It just is.
Heart intelligence, basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love that you said that.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm glad you love it. You've described your spiritual journey as a beautiful, hot, stinking mess.
Yes.
And you're an angel reader, or angel medium. Can you share why you feel that way? Why I've described it that way?
Yeah. Because, if we're going to be ascending,
Mhm.
things are going to have to be deconstructed. And I say that very, all that description very tongue in cheek because, man, when I thought I was smooth going through this, I am good. And then something would come and check my ego. And, I'd be like, okay, now I feel like I got to reset. But I'm glad ultimately in hindsight that whatever happened because I wouldn't
Mhm.
have learned that lesson or had that breakthrough, had that revelation if that didn't happen because I was just bummed along and doing my thing. I also think that it's really important to, especially with, I don't know why this is, it's just my opinion, but like with angel mediums or angel, uh, people who do angel work, whatever they
Mhm.
call themselves, there is this perception that we're just always love and light. I don't know, like we don't have problems or something. We have problems. Okay. We do. So, I try to put those things out there to let people know him in the trenches with you. I'm right there with you. I'm holding your hand. I'm a support for you. I'm just here to deliver a message.
That brings up an interesting point that we've talked about in little conversations, around the water cooler.
Mm.
Do angels and demons work together? That's a theme that comes up a lot. That just randomly that allegedly in the sixth dimension or something, they're co-conspirating. Like the demons coming up with the problem, whatever you want to call the energy, and the angel's going to come up with the solution, and it's sort of a 1-2 punch. I
Mm.
mean, you were talking about big challenges in your life leading to revelation. Do you do you get a sense that there is a negative force that works with a positive force in heaven?
Yes, but probably it's not as simplistic as our minds would perceive it.
Good, bad, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like the cartoon where you've got the devil and the angel, and they're kind of like, well, hey, like it's my turn to let this person do whatever, whatever. Uh, I got this message through Michael years and years ago because I wanted to know what that was all about myself. So I asked, and the explanation was if there wasn't contrast for the human mind, you would never perceive the light. If you're always in the light, you don't know what it is. So to answer that question, so to speak, yes, the darkness does have a purpose, and it's so that we can perceive the light and
Hmm.
to know well, and also the earth plane existence, we're here to experience the polarized emotions. This is the best school for that.
Hmm.
So again, I guess in some sense, yeah, they have their purpose, and yeah, there's a little like throwing something in your path. I don't fully understand that, and I will absolutely admit that I haven't allowed myself to go too far into that.
Right.
I'm a scaredy cat with that stuff. So, but I did ask that one question, and that was the answer I got from Michael.
Hmm. Well, I certainly see the contrast.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, like a Kali chaos seems to be working with heaven.
Yeah.
I also feel like they kind of warn you, and then, okay, car accident. It seems like, you get several chances. And I kind of feel like they're the ones that like turn the wheel at that last moment. You survived, but you learned.
Yeah.
Do you feel like angels are a part of near-death experiences?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I just want to share real quick. There was a message coming through as you were saying that
Okay.
the darkness is here to create chaos and to distract us
Mm.
so that we can correct and learn what that process is of correcting. The
Mm.
near death experience, 100%. They are, you mean like,
Are they the ones coming to us saying, you got to go back? Or are they facilitating that? Or is some sort of council up there? It seems like they sort of run heaven, and I didn't get that from the Bible. That's something my inner self just kind of feels like. Seems like they're running the show in the next at some dimension, like, and to
yes,
some degree puppeting what we, puppeteering kind of some of the stuff we go through. And if we fall out of line, they're like, nope, you're going back. You didn't learn the lesson.
right.
Feels that way.
Yeah, there are choirs of angels that are in charge of various things. The angels and archangels we would be the most familiar with. They go by very specific rules.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, they can't interfere with human free will. Okay. So they're the
Right.
guardians. They're here to guide us. They're here to teach us. They're here to get us, like you're saying, moving down the right path. But as far as like the idea of like get back into your body, Even now they're coming through and trying to answer that by saying we shield. We shield.
Mhm.
So if it depends on the situation, but if someone is starting to come out of their body and it's definitely not their time, they will coax that soul to go back in. But they're
Mm.
saying we can't push the soul back in. We don't stand, they're saying we don't stand there and say it's not your time. Which is
Ah,
interesting because we hear a lot of near death experience stories where people are saying, I heard that. It's usually a guide that's saying that.
okay.
Um, they feel like they have like a bigger, more expansive thing that's happening, like making sure there's safe passage back into the physical body.
Mm.
That's what's coming through right now.
Hmm. So guardians, the guardians of the angel, the word guardian in the guardian angel, like interesting. What's the distinction between archangel and guardian angel? Is it a,
Guardian angels are a different frequency. They're a little bit closer to us,
mm,
and they resonate as it's come through me and as I understand it. They usually resonate on the same level as your higher self. That's where we get this idea of the
mm,
angelic self. Okay, so like a fifth dimensional energy can be above that, but usually fifth dimension. Archangels are usually, again, this isn't like hard fast rule, but usually seventh dimension. That's where they're kind of hanging out to be able to be in the right frequency realm, so they can still help us. They can't come too close. They can't. So I'm about to say something controversial. You ready for this?
uh-huh.
There are people who say, Archangel Michael, the whole archangel came and sat next to me. The way it's come through me is that that doesn't happen. That they stay, that seventh dimensional energy can't come that close to
Hmm.
this, this density body. It wouldn't handle it very well. So there
Yeah.
is a layer of them. So it's still Archangel Michael coming and visiting us, but it's not the whole archangel coming. So
His big toe.
yeah, exactly. It's a big
And one piece of them. I kind of get the feeling they just go, well, they kind of like stick their finger in it or something, in consciousness, like a soup, and feel their way down.
Yeah.
They're too big, right? I mean, they're holding together the universe that the Earth is in. It feels like.
Mhm. That's
Have you
exactly.
heard this? This is all being inspired. I haven't followed the script once tonight. Have you heard that the angels created humans? That's a rumor I heard in many places that God asked actually the way it was done, and these are from other people I've heard, like mediums, is that God asked the angels to architect reality. Have you heard anything around the water cooler at work about that?
Oh yeah. There's all kinds of things around that. And what's interesting is I believe we're all one. And so I don't know if it kind of stems from that, but for sure they were the helpers in creating. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so let's just see. Let's just ask. How about that?
Yeah. Why don't we?
Why not? We orchestrated. We helped.
That's a good word.
Yeah. So but there's a reason why I'm hesitating because there's this other okay, because there's different layers of angels and archangels.
Hmm.
So not the archangels as we are familiar with. Like it wasn't like they came in and said, "Poof, a tree. There you go." Like it was sort of
Right.
like we have our instructions. Let's breathe life into this and then help nurture it. And
Hmm.
as the earth has grown into what it is, they've been there every step of the way
Hmm.
and helping to nurture it along. So I don't know. Is it kind of, I guess it's kind of like God. Well, I say God. God's first creator planted the seed, and then they kept watering the seed and making sure it had everything it needed.
I've also heard that we are the descendants of angels. That we're the great grandchildren, or just like it's angelic energy all the way down.
Hmm.
Which I don't know is true. I'm sharing rumors I've heard. I'm wondering what you heard.
I love that you're doing this. Are we talking about Nephilim?
Not I don't know anything specifically,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
can't put the context around. But from what I've understood, well, there's the Elohim, right? Is that what you said? It's Elohim.
Mhm.
See, I read words and don't know. So yeah, is that angelic? What's the difference between Elohim and archangels or the angel realm? Are
Okay.
they one and the
So
same? Because they get confused when I
they
hear
do
them.
get confused. It's different words to describe a similar energy.
Okay, so Elohim are angels.
Yeah. So the Book of Enoch that's kind of what we're tapping into, I think, here, and where we're kind of going, or where I think a lot of people get this idea from, where
Okay.
there were some fallen archangels that mated, with the beautiful women of the earth
Right.
and created what is thought to be giants. So,
Oh,
yeah, it
which we
gets
have record of.
was
We have
that?
record we have record of giants on the earth. Yeah, so it's not that far-fetched.
It's not that far fetched at all. And are there some humans on this planet that have what we would describe as angelic lineage? Yes.
Okay.
Would that be most people? No.
Okay.
And given the nature of that lineage and what happened to it, it's not the same frequency of like the angels we're talking about and wanting to work with, if that makes sense. And I'm not in the sense that it's evil necessarily. I don't know, but it's
That's
not.
I've always questioned that.
Yeah,
Really? You turn your back on God? Really? Like, is that possible?
yeah,
And the gonads to do that. Like, screw you. We know better than you, the one that created everything. Like the idea.
you can't tell
This
me
is
nothing.
great. This is a good segue. What do you think are the fallen angels? Like, that's another thing. Like Lucifer, all these types of things. Do you think that is that true? Like there was a squad that just said, F you, God, we're gonna do it our way. It's hard. I find it hard to believe. If you're on an angel level, like why would you flip to that?
Why would
Or
you?
maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was God saying, all right, you guys go play the bad guys for me because I need to, really get these humans all worked up.
I think you just hit on something right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go pretend. You're evil.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I think actually what was coming through just now was this is how humans can understand it, and so this is how humans have told the story. So again, it gets into that bigger thing of yes, there was a turn, but I hate to say this because this isn't going to hit correctly, but it's like it was like a necessary turn. I don't get that. I don't understand that myself, but like that makes me think that yeah, you're right. Like this was probably part of the story of like if we're going to have this duality consciousness and a third dimensional ego consciousness, if we're doing this as an experiment, we're going to have something on the other polarized, like lower end of the
To get
vibration.
it moving. Yeah. Well, I even look at it. Well, life isn't even real, right? Like what's real is us in heaven. This is all a game. It's all a play. It's all a musical. So who wants to play the bad guy? I will. I feel like to some degree, someone has to play the bad guy. Someone has to play the good guy. These are archetypes. This is opportunity school for learning. It's all about learning. So it doesn't matter. You get back to heaven. It's like bad guy means nothing. It was all imaginary.
That's something I can definitely confirm because again, all the readings I've ever done for people, there's always this. There's a pattern. I guess I could actually say that there would be someone who's playing a character. Like this is the play.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And yes, like you said, somebody has to come in and play the contrast. They have to come in and play the bad guy. So.
And I can see myself like after a few lifetimes, like I want to play the bad guy. That'd be fun. Like, you want to have that. I remember in drama school, like, the popular kids would play the bad guy because it was fun to be not yourself. You're not what you normally are. It's also easier to play sometimes when it's opposite you. So it's interesting.
And to explore something safely that you would never actually become. Or hopefully.
Oh, that's true too.
Or something like that.
Get out of your system. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Now back to Enoch, right, which is tied to Sandalphon and Metatron. What do you realize or understand? Did God really promote two humans to the angelic level, the two brothers, Metatron and Sandalphon?
I don't think they were ever meant to be human.
Oh, that was the conspiracy. There were angels playing humans in the film.
Exactly. Having to come down and help these people out, give them the messages in order for them to understand you're going to have to take on human form, which this is another thing gets a little complicated, I suppose. There's this idea of, are there angels walking among us?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Are there? This real quick. And I've gotten messages through, and this is not to diminish what any other person has experienced or they feel they're getting through themselves. The way it has come through me is that an actual angel soul, which is where I got angel souls from, an actual angel soul can exist in a human body. So it can present as such, but it's not literally the soul of an angel dipping into this body. The frequencies just can't play nice.
It's too big. It's like an elephant sitting in like high heels. Like just not gonna work.
That's exactly
They
it.
can't get their foot in there. Like yeah.
Right. But,
Yeah.
you were talking about angel miracles. I've had angel miracles myself, and I absolutely believe that they either work through humans or they present as humans. So going back to the question of Enoch and Elijah,
Mm.
how can you have to look the part to get the humans to trust you
Hmm.
because they were heading down a very, very, very dark path.
Mm.
And
So
they
God sent in a double agent.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Now, I have been in front of people that I swear they are angels,
Mhm.
and I've called them earth angels,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
but there is a glow,
Mhm.
and it never goes like Betty White might have been. I don't know. She's just has that glow, like this, always happy. And you see her in interviews and with dogs and everything. She was just always that angelic love, and you feel like a certain level of love, and you're like, how did you reach that, right? And they hold that space. And if you watch their lives, they do walk around. They end up being at the right place at the right time. And I've
Yes.
watched some of these earth angels. Do you believe that there are earth angels? I mean, are we describing the same thing or?
Earth angels, the way I understand it, is someone who is on angelic mission. That's one form of it. But it doesn't necessarily have to mean that the person is aware of it. So, for example, doctors, lots of doctors are
Mm,
earth angels. They wouldn't tell you that. They would never come to this show here and listen to that. They wouldn't see themselves as such, but they are. Or think about the person who does, um, crisis work. They
mhm,
would see themselves as an earth angel. So, yes, there are earth angels.
mm,
Again, it's more like I think being on angelic mission, or you could have somebody who we hear this all the time too. They're like, I don't know why I felt the need to walk into a store. I actually have a store. This actually happened to me. I had to walk into a store that I normally don't like walking into because I don't like it's they sell candles. Okay, we'll just say that. I don't like all the smells coming at my face, right? So I don't
mm,
normally go into that store, but I felt the nudge, the
mhm,
loving nudge to go in. And I ended up meeting this young woman who just lost a parent.
mm.
And we stood there for a good 20 minutes just talking. And as soon as she opened her mouth, I knew, okay, there's something. And I'm saying to the angels, okay, what do you want me to say to her? What does
Right.
she need to hear? What would help heal her right now? So that's how you can end up being sort of an earth angel, so to speak, right? You're just kind of following that guidance and that nudge.
I've always said that I work for the angels. I mean, as time unfolds, no, I mean, I think they are my boss. At the end of the day, I feel like I made the mission with them, and I'm doing my best. I'm trying to get in their school. I think I'm trying to get an Enoch, a Santa Fawn promotion. I'm not got one yet, but I do feel it, and they come in a lot. One of the interesting aspects that just came randomly, but maybe not, is I noticed when angels intervene, on Serious Joe, we have this show with Devin called Angel Intervention.
Mm,
We're talking about where angels will intervene in the situation, which is a last resort, right? Because free will is what's most important.
absolutely.
And when they intervene, let's say they stop a car from running off the road, at the very same time of that intervention of the car running off the road, they also, stop something else from happening. They also make a wife realize she's in love with her husband again. It's like this multi-dimensional miracle that hits like 20 different points at the same time. Have you seen that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Metatron, we were talking about Metatron. Metatron is in charge of a lot of things, but one of them is the Akashic Records.
Hmm.
The idea around this is that every single one of us is existing in several different iterations across
Mhm.
time and space. Not all necessarily happening, but existing at the same time, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So, yes, angels and archangels can absolutely be just sort of like they're calling it like a faceted form. So they can be in they can send they're saying several points of light at once and be
Mm.
everywhere at once, which is wild to us because we can't do that. So
Mhm.
how can any being do that? But yes, absolutely, they can be intervening, and there's also everything is very highly in a very intricate way connected. So
Mhm.
we know that, right? So you
You're
ping it
right.
there, and it's going to splinter, and it's going to affect a lot of
A
things.
lot of ricocheting and consequences and dominoes and yeah. Mhm. It's very interesting. But, a lot of times you see like, oh, this guy walks in the store, a baby's delivered, a person's life is saved. Like you're like, whoa, like 20 different things happen from that one little tiny moment.
Mhm.
There's also an incredible efficiency with the angels. Like They don't waste any energy. And I'm just talking about seeing signs that it was an angelic thing. It's like just a simple pebble rolling across the street changed everyone's life in that neighborhood. You know, like they pull it off of like the small. It's almost like a contest. They pull off the smallest amount of energy.
Yes.
It's like they're competing it for that or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't take much for them, right? We're
Apparently
the
not.
ones that make it difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's like a genius to it. You know, you see a genius. I mean, it's genius beyond genius when you see it. And as your mind goes down what you just saw, you realize this is just fired in so many directions. You know, not even AI could have calculated that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm wondering about your number here. You named your business Angel Souls 444, and we have a step system. I have a system here in my program that 4 is aligned with sort of innovation. And so sometimes it can be disruptive, like necessary disruptive, chaos that leads to good. Why did you choose this number?
Well, the actual business is Angel Souls.
Okay. What's the 444 then?
The 444 came in out of practicality because
Okay.
sometimes it was just taken up. But
Oh, gotcha. Angel Souls is just like
that's the
URLs, book titles. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Facebook isn't going to let you have Angel Souls. You can have Angel Souls 444. But the 444 part of it, instead of
Mhm.
777, it in angel numbers, we associate 4s with a guardian angel energy. And I was very much leaning on the guardian angels because going into this line of work, I didn't want to be on camera. I didn't want to be
Mhm.
I didn't want to like talk about imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to be talking about this stuff? What if I'm
Right.
wrong? You know, people come and they're trusting me to help them figure out their lives. Like, that is so much responsibility. So I was really wanting to keep pure, and the guardian angels and that frequency of the 4, that I don't know, that just kind of helped me vibe with them, I guess. So yeah,
Mm.
the reason
It's
why
like
I
a
did that. Yeah.
angel phone number then.
Angel phone
It's their
number.
phone number. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What about angel numbers? Like, it was a specific angel reader that brought that out, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Or has the
Oh,
angel numbers been a thing for always? I can't quite tell if certain people squatted on it or if it was one author channeled it. But it seems to be very popular. It's like angel number apps, books.
well, there was yeah, there were angel mediums that definitely spoke on this. But
Hmm.
there was one, she as far as I know, she's not on social media. She just had a website and she just has this whole catalog of every angel combination you could angel number combination you could think of. And it's really well put together. It's good energy around it. But yeah, it wasn't very well known. I would say up until about 2012. A lot of stuff happened in 2012 where we're all going, "Uh-oh, I feel something's coming. I better I better work with whatever's in my face," right? So
Hmm.
I think people then started seeking out these number patterns, and
Hmm.
most of us, it started with 1111, which
Oh,
I
yeah. That is funny. Yeah. It's that I mean, I saw that in our lifetime. I mean, I don't know what age you are and don't you have to say it on the air, but like I think 1111 wasn't popular in the 80s. It
no,
seemed like it came out in the 90s, maybe late 90s is when I started to see it popping up.
I used to think that it was 1111, make a wish.
Oh, right.
It's
That's
just
true.
cute that it's 1111, but I didn't know that it is actually a manifestation number. And you have to be careful of what you're thinking and feeling, the heart space, right, in that moment, because it's getting your attention about your ascension process and what you're manifesting. So you're absolutely right. Um, the 80s, there was not, nobody was talking about that. But I don't recall anybody really talking about much of anything, spirituality wise. Or if
Oh, no.
they were very sort of closeted. And I remember yoga. I was just thinking about this the other day where yoga started to become a thing again. Not it's always a thing, obviously, but like people
Since Yogananda?
what was that?
Since Yogananda was starting to come back or something? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it started to get popular again with mainstream. And even then when it just started, people were like, oh, what is that? That's so woo-woo. That's so what is that? What is like gently moving your body actually going to do for you? You know? So it is interesting how that came about. And I think it has to do with people were already shifting. There was, 2008 was a major breaking point as well. It
Mm.
wasn't just 2012. And we remember all the stuff that was going on in 2008, around the world.
Mhm.
So I think that more and more people start being receptive to it and they're
Mm.
noticing it. And then obviously, when we notice something, we're going to question it. Why am I seeing 5353? By the way,
Mhm.
that's for someone out there who's watching that just popped
Oh, yeah, you came up with that? Right.
in. 5353. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. And I'm in a way happy that people are paying attention to it. Um, but it's been misused as well.
Oh, yeah, and turned into silly things, you
Yeah.
know? So, what is 11/11 officially?
Officially. That I associate 1111 with Metatron.
Hmm.
So, which I know that's kind of for some people, I might be like, "Whoa, we just went to the big guy!" Like all of a sudden, well, Metatron is in charge of our ascension process. He's all about sacred geometry. We hear about Metatron's cube. All of those things.
Yeah.
Metatron handles a lot of that stuff that we consider New Age
Mhm.
knowledge behind that.
Hmm.
So 1111 is think of it as sort of like cracking the energy field open.
Hmm.
And it really depends on where you are. So like if you've seen 1111 since 1990, okay? You're kind of used to it, right? So you'll need to stop and kind of assess, okay, why are you giving this to me? Right? And there's going to be something probably pretty deep, maybe really profound, something about your ascension and what you deserve to have happen next for yourself and what you get to enjoy now and what you get to manifest. Somebody who's just, as we say, waking up
Mm.
might look at that and it's going to be more of a heart opening.
Mm.
Um, and it's just kind of he doesn't come into like it depends on the person, like I said, but for someone who's just kind of getting started, that energy might be a little intimidating
Mm.
and throw them off. So there's going to be kind of that cracking open, allowing some stuff to start falling away, let the perspective um, start to sharpen a little bit, start to turn on the light a little bit. And then usually for someone, we'll just throw this out there, for someone who's just waking up, Archangel Raphael is going to be there. Raphael's very gentle and
He's the
loving.
kindergarten teacher of heaven?
He absolutely is. And he's all about the heart space. So
Mhm.
that would be an excellent time for everyone to be working with Raphael too.
Hmm. I've always I've always felt Metatron feels a lot like a Virgo, like,
Ah,
and
interesting.
Virgo is what things become. No, this is what it is. I get that energy from Metatron, like, this is what it is. So, I had never associated him with 11/11, but I always saw 11/11 as when everything lines up in a perfect row and is nice and neat like a Virgo would like it, like,
Mhm.
when everything lines up. It's
Yeah.
like, if you look at the sacred geometry of it, it's 4 lines all in a row perfectly. And that the metaphor for that of getting your life in alignment, bring things into alignment. At Serious Joe, we use the word integrity. Integrity is when you're aligned with your heart. One's you and one's your heart. To me, is 11. So it's interesting. And for me, when you say see these numbers in their life, what you're just saying, uh, what we're talking about is like I was talking to my wife and I just happened to look at the clock and there it was. Like and this goes to my theory. It's like it's almost like the angels are like they make you look because I don't remember asking to look or even thinking to look,
Right.
right? You're just like, huh? Just
Yeah.
like when you're driving down the street and, and someone next to you and both drivers like look at each other straight eye to eye out of nowhere, this like 11/11, kind of,
Yeah.
it's almost like a hashtag. Like God's like hashtag 11/11, like,
Really.
we can search it in the cosmic database later or something, but it's interesting. What's
Yeah.
another number just as a comparison?
777 is
Oh
another one
yeah.
that I think a lot of people see. That's more
Winning in Vegas. You win in Vegas, right?
on Vegas. Yeah. So the triple seven.
Which is ironic. The most unspiritual place in the world
Right.
uses spiritual numbers for jackpots.
Well, that's an example of like,
The angel's like, eh?
there you go. Yeah, that too. But having to stop and kind of, discern, like, is this,
Uh-huh.
actually an angel number? But that would be archangelic presence coming into your life. And
Mm.
it's also a time of keep going. It's encouraging. It's saying, hey, you're loved. We'll
Mm.
bring you resources. You're open now to receive those things. So it's not as if they're interfering by coming in and just like giving you something to like have a successful career or whatever. It's hey, you just accomplished something big. You just figured out that you deserve this.
It's
You
a sticker.
know,
Sticker on your report card. Good job.
yeah, you get the little smelly stickers. Do you remember those?
Mhm.
Scratch and sniff, I think is
I
what we
remember that.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, that's a good sign, but I think the angels don't want us to just go, "Oh, I did it. Okay, I'm done."
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Always tune in and pay attention to the thing you were just thinking about when you saw that number. And sometimes it's out of support. If you're really doubting yourself, or because unfortunately, here's an example of the darkness working through people, just like light works through
Mhm.
people. You know, I talk about narcissism on my channel all the time.
Mhm.
That's an example of how that's working through somebody. So if somebody
Mm.
darkness working through them and they're diminishing another person, you're starting to be in a low frequency. Now you're losing connection with your team, your
Mhm.
angelic team. Things like 777 could be like, hey, you're okay. Just because someone says it doesn't make it true. You remember you. That's the kind of 777.
Mm.
We probably should talk about 88 because we've got
Oh,
line
yeah. We're in the numbers. Let's do it.
the numbers. Yeah, well, a lot of people commonly associate 8 with abundance, and uh, for the angels, yes, it could be like another kind of good job, keep going. But it's also cycles, right? It's a continuous loop, is how it's presented as a character,
Mm.
right? Um, so more often than not, let's call it 75% of the time. I don't know, that number just popped in my head. We'll call it 75% of the time. That is a good thing when you see many eights in a row.
Mhm.
Okay. If you look at these eights and you were just thinking about, gosh, I'm always worried about money, someone might look at that and say, well, that's telling you not to worry about money because you're going to be abundant. And yes, that could be
Mm.
true, but something is there too. Going, hey, you keep looping around this thing that's blocking the money. Good news, you
Right.
don't have to do that. That sort of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so you work with Metatron, obviously. I mean, who's on your council?
Well,
Who's on your team?
I've worked with just about every archangel, but the ones that have been popping in recently, Michael, Metatron, and Raphael.
Mm.
But as far as like team, Archangel Gabriel definitely is a part of my team.
Mm. Gabe and I don't talk very much.
No?
No, surprisingly not.
Oh,
On
okay.
occasion, Metatron and Ratziel are the two big angels that come
Razio,
in.
yes. Oh, I could definitely see Razio wanting to work with you.
Oh, really? Why?
Yep.
Why is that? I'm just curious.
Okay, so if people are watching, they've heard me say this too many times, but I always say Raziel is a rainbow on a night sky. He is innovative. He is the magician. He
Mm-hmm.
has that magical, transformative kind of energy. If you think it can't be done, Raziel's the one to call upon.
Sure.
He's going to show you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of he helps you be a trailblazer.
Well,
I
he
def-
certainly helped me.
I see that in you, definitely.
Oh,
Yes.
so I heard word somewhere. I don't know if it was around the water cooler or in my own prayers, but
Mhm.
that Ratziel wrote the Book of Enoch. That's Ratziel's book, right? Like it was his knowledge. He had the knowledge. Am I wrong about that?
No, I know what you're talking about.
I heard a spiritual rumor that,
I know, right? And yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know I heard that too. I think it was like the idea that Razio was guiding the writing of it and inspiring.
yeah.
Shoot,
Well, he does that for me.
absolutely, yeah.
He comes in my readings, and it took me a long time. I didn't know who it was. Because I wasn't even connected to the angels. If you heard me say angel, I'll be like angels, whatever. I came from Catholicism and Buddhism as a child, so I had very cartoonish, impressions, but this presence would come in and basically show me the arc of the story of the client. Like you started here and then you left him here and left him here and left him here and left him here. And they'd be like, and to close the story, they got to do this. I'm like, okay, to close the story, it's coming completely from, I also think Ratziel taught me my step system and gave me this system that I use for astrology. I'm confident it was Ratziel because I feel you identify the energy signature. I mean, how do you identify Archangel from Archangel, the difference of them? Is it smell, taste, feel, vibe, knowing?
Mm. Yeah, how do I do it? Boy, I need to stop and assess this for a
Think
second.
about
Uh,
taking your own talent for granted. Well, you do. You take talent for granted. Like sometimes you just know, and then you have like an employee is like, "How do you do that?" You're like, "I don't know how I do that."
no, I don't, I've never had to explain it. No, I think color signature for me is a part.
Oh, do you see it?
I see. Yeah, I usually see them as orbs, and like piercing light in a certain color, but that's also just kind of like I don't know how to describe it. Like they all kind of have their own feeling. They're all actually one. They're divvied up for our sake. They're compartmentalized so we can handle working with
Hmm.
them and understanding them.
I guess that is true. Really, we're all one, anyways, right? Like,
All one, yeah. And so when they do come through, like if okay, so if Razio were to come in, Razio has um a tingly, I don't know if that's the right word, a kind of a I'm excited because I have a new idea. He's very inspirational. But like in a
mm,
weird kind of here, let's take you to the dark side of the moon and show you what else exists, right?
kind
So
of Merlin like to me, like kind of.
very Merlin.
Mhm.
That's perfect.
And somewhat gay. He is the rainbow angel.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
like I think
Hey,
there's a flamboyance to Ratio. Isn't Ratio connected to Leo? Or do you see those astrology connections to angels?
I never really have. I know lots of
Mm.
people are super talented with making those connections. It's just never come up for me. So I would be sitting right next to you, like listening to somebody else. Like, what what's your take on that? But I do want to mention really quick, Archangel Uriel. Has Uriel ever come
Mm.
for you?
No. I mean, I just or I haven't recognized and put a name to it.
I just
Because I
say
get some weird energies pop in every now. I'm like, what the hell was that?
that.
Maybe that was a Uriel. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's Uriel feel like to you?
Uriel, I don't work with
Uriel.
Uriel too often. He's thought to have brought astrology to humans.
Oh, no, I'm
So
in
that's
trouble
why I was
now.
just curious. I mean,
I
he
should
might
have
not
known
be
that.
the one. You know, you got Raziel too helping you out and teaching you.
Yeah. Well, we're expanding on it. So I guess we're expanding on Uriel's work.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. Well, Raziel feels to me like a gay angel. He seems very there's like a joyful, like kind of like you would see in a Muppet, like he's like a Muppet kind of energy. Metatron to me feels like this is the way. And I just feel this absolute don't even try it kind of energy.
Yeah,
In
he's
fact, if I pray to
he's
Metro, if I,
ten.
I don't pray to him for a sign because he will slap me upside the face. It'll be like it will always be. I remember in one case, it's like, is this person good for me? Metatron, I need to know. The next day, the person punched me in the face. I'm like, Jesus, Metatron, a trip would have been fine.
What? That really happened?
Yeah. I mean, I have this when I pray, I don't pray very often to the angels like authentically in the sense of please, right? Like I usually because I'm trying to show off and get promoted, I think. I don't know. Like I try to like, I can be an angel. I don't need you. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. Will you help? So it's sort of that moment where I put myself in despair. But I could just tell you story after story of prayer, answer, prayer, answer, prayer, answer in physical, undeniable, Jesus Christ, you cannot deny this kind of stuff. And the one with Metatron was, I was worried about a person in my life. I'm like, I really need to know, is this person good for me? And the next day, this person just out of nowhere punched me in the face. And I was like, and I have a feeling Metatron was behind it, like, just to kind of reveal. And even the person said, I don't know what got into me kind of thing.
Do you mind me speaking on that for just one
No,
second?
please dive in.
I don't think Metatron would have had any
Done that. Okay, an angel wouldn't do that. That was the demon.
But when we ask, hey, can you have this person reveal themselves?
Mhm.
Whatever's already there within that person is going to reveal itself. And like that, it was violence, apparently.
Yeah.
Problem. Who
Well,
is
and to take it to, and if the relationship was it was a friendship, it's like
Yeah.
relating to me, it's like just ask. You don't have to punch me. You know what I mean? Like,
Seriously.
it was over the top. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
very much so.
Mm.
But yeah.
Let's see. What else do we want to talk about? Well, what about the concept of miracles? So, do you feel like, and the car just magically steered itself, or do you feel like angels like stick their, fingers in and re-architect in that moment, or change the timeline, or mess with the matrix? Is that legit?
Are we talking about humans' version of miracles or actual miracles?
What's the difference?
They can be different for sure.
Tell
Uh,
us the difference.
yeah, so a lot of times people just want so badly to believe, or
Mm,
it's actually their energy signature that's being thrown outside of them. And so to me, that's more of like going right to the source, right? And something's coming in. They may have created a solution for themselves. In a lot of cases, people create their own miracles. Again, I know that's a little controversial for some people, but there's good news here because I'm about to follow it up with this thing. So
Okay.
there's the broader miracle, right? And those are the miracles that we can't really articulate. We don't have human language to explain it. I can't explain how I ended up in New York City. I can't explain it. But that
Mm.
ended up being, I don't know if I would full on call it a miracle, but it was one of the best things for my soul to experience. And I met some of the people who would come to absolutely define my path, kind of. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So, yes, there are miracles where someone, let's say, uh, has a sudden recovery from a very terrible illness. That can be divine intervention coming through. But even now, they're saying, but the human person, the person has to be receptive to this energy, and so they're making the
Mm.
distinction even right now that if anybody can have a miracle.
Mm.
Miracles are the natural state of things. We
Mm.
just shut them out, and so think that it's unusual when something has a solution, or we suddenly get to feel at peace because something was resolved, or we find the love of our life, or the dream job, or whatever. Miracles are the natural state of things, is what they're saying.
Mm. Well, I mean, look at the human body. It's a
Mm,
freaking miracle.
yeah.
Like if you study biology or you study the trees, I mean, anything on Earth is like, oh my God. And if evolution is correct, like that we just randomly evolved from a cell, that's a freaking miracle.
Yeah,
Like you
exactly.
started a cell and you became a gorilla. Like, how the hell did that happen? That is not
Right.
random.
It's not random. Exactly.
Yeah. It's
Exactly.
pushed consciousness towards a certain direction without a doubt. Have you ever been in front of a client and the angels didn't come through? Like you're like, guys, are we doing this? Was there ever a moment like that? And did you take it like as, oh, geez, am I in front of the right client? They don't want to, they're not working through.
Yeah, that is such a great question. I love that you asked that. So the angels are always there. I have had clients that have been mostly terrified, like, and terrified because they're afraid, like, oh, Michelle can see me. She's going to see all of
Mhm.
the shame. She's going to see all this. And they don't realize, like, I'm holding space with you and for you. And I'm doing this with absolute love. So no judgment. It's really interesting because I'll pick up on that and I'll start to address it, say in a reading, and then they'll start to relax and that energy will be open. So, yes, I have had clients where it's been kind of hard to read for them. That's one example. I've also had clients who come in and they have demons,
Oh yeah.
full on demons. And
Hmm.
at that point, I'm protecting myself and I'm still asking for protection for the little glimmer of the soul that's left in the other person.
Wow.
Like it's so squashed.
Last resort.
Yeah, it's like this tiny little piece of light.
Little flicker.
Yeah. And
Do
try
you feel
to
like they're drawn to you? Like those clients are drawn to you because it's like, honey to, bees to honey, or they want to gobble up more energy and yours is really sweet and pure. You got some sweet blood in you and they're vampiristic.
I think there's a little of both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're talking about like what we call narcissism in this world. That has like lots of variations, but I have a lot of those people, those types, come to me because it's like think about if you had like God forbid like a growth that was making it hard for you to walk, and you go somewhere and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" I really believe that it's the lighted part, the part of the person that's left that's pure, that's trying to come and get some help to get that off. So yes, that does happen. There are also um, pure evil people. I don't come across too many of those, but ones that
I,
just come and
I've,
throw.
I've come across a couple
Yeah, they
and
just
you feel it.
yeah. Oh, it's creepy. It's
Oh,
absolutely
you can see like crazy in their eyes even.
yeah.
You can see like a little bit. When I was a kid, there were cartoons and they would have they have a like close up of the eyes of the cartoon and you hear like a hysterical laughter.
Hmm.
The cartoons made that. So I literally, when I've looked into evil people, there is a crazy laughter in their eyes. I can't describe it, but once you see it, you never unsee it.
It's like a maniacal
it's like literally the eyes are laughing at you. The eyes themselves are laughing. It's like, but a maniacal, Dr. Evil kind of, kind of, it's crazy and it's rare,
Yeah.
But
But
I've also known evil, like not evil, but really dark people who are like, and they'll sit there and be mean to everyone. They'll be like, "Hi, Chris." Like for whatever reason, I get along with them, and which I was like, "Why do they get along with me?" But I also think I'm a bridger,
yeah,
so I think I'm here to talk to all. Like, you're all my clients, all of you, even the ones that did bad things. Everyone's my client, like because you're all God's children, and one day you'll, or maybe you're playing that role. Maybe you're not even a bad guy. Maybe you're like, I want to play the bad guy.
yeah. And probably it is the good part of because this is the hard thing. It gets people into cycles with what we call toxic people, right? Like that word that gets thrown around. There's still a
Mhm.
glimmer of love and good in that person. And people who are typically light workers, we want to ignore, no, maybe not ignore, but we want to nurture the good part, right? By the way,
Right.
we're about to come up on 11:11. Nothing magical about
Oh, where you are?
my time zone. Nothing magical about that. I just looked over at the clock.
Oh, that's crazy. And here where I'm at, it's 9/11. Oh shit.
Nah, that's okay. That's not what you think it is.
Well, I should demystify it for us real quick then, since
Sure,
it came
sure.
up.
9 is a job well done. It's a completion,
Mm,
a release. And an 11 is stepping into the next, it's a master number, stepping into the next chapter so they can get on to the next lesson. Especially in the United States, we associate that with a lot of different things.
well, I almost think that was a squad on consciousness having it on that day.
Well,
Whether it's the fact that we had the towers go down on 9/11 and the towers are like an 11. I mean, seems a little too poetic, you
yeah, I
know.
agree. Yeah.
And I think if you do that, you tap into 666. If you find some date of 666, and that's the day when this elementary school burns down, you're like, humans are going to buy into it. 9/11 to me seemed very architected by someone or whether it was Saudi Arabia or whatever. But it's
Oh, I
interesting to see those. I see the dark hijack numbers or hijack astrology for their negative intentions too, like a tricking devil kind of thing.
It's a useful energy. It's a useful tool. So if
Mm,
they can tap into it, they're going to use it for their agenda, and it happens.
it
Definitely.
does. You've mentioned on your show the importance of being in truth, even if truth breathes fire. Can you recall a time when an angelic message was particularly uncomfortable for you to deliver?
Mm, there's been so many.
Mm,
To pinpoint one immediately, COVID popped into my head. Um, and I'm sure, a lot of people who are spiritual practitioners, I don't know if well, I'm sure people had people coming to them and saying, "Hey, why is this happening?
oh yeah, every day.
Help me know what's going on." And I remember that there was just, the difficult thing was to say, "Guys, I don't have the answer. I
Mm,
want to have the answer. I
mhm,
want, not even for my sake." At the time I was working for myself within my home. I mean, yeah, I was far away from family, but I was okay. I was doing,
mhm,
a lot of people weren't. They were losing people. And the hardest thing to say is, I don't know why your loved one died.
mhm,
I don't know why they were taken. I don't know when this is going to end.
mm.
Um,
Do you believe it
it-
was predetermined? Like those who passed away from COVID, that was always the exit, always, and then they took advantage of a mass exit strategy?
Also, a great question. I love that you brought that up. Yeah, because one of the messages that I've gotten through previously before COVID was that we have these exit points on our timeline. So, could it have been for some
Mhm.
people, it was just a good time,
Perfect timing, let's do it.
just take that exit? Yeah, I think definitely that's a possibility. But yeah, answering that previous question, not being able to provide a comforting message in a time that was just so hard to fathom.
Yeah, well, I'm not afraid anymore. It's like, I don't know, they're not telling me. Like the presidential results is the latest COVID, like who's gonna win? This is like I'm really not picking up at the moment. They're hiding it from me. Like I'm not being told. We're being kept out of the loop there. It's a
About the election?
Well, I'm starting to, I'm not going to say anything on the air, but I will say, like, I'm starting to get some feels now,
Oh,
some clear feels, but I wasn't until June, maybe. Like, it was just a complete blank, like, blind corner, like, can't feel around this thing at all. I don't know if do we have a country? Like, I don't know.
right. I was feeling the same thing. Now,
Yeah.
it just feels dispersed. Like there's just too many pieces calculating around. I don't know.
It's chaos. There's no question. And
Yeah.
too much chaos to calculate. We just get the popcorn and watch, like,
Yeah. And just
yeah,
wait to see and be in our best version of ourselves so we can come on through, whatever that looks like.
and play the role we're meant to play, like, the bad guy, the good guy, or whatever, the helper. Now you're a veteran like myself. You've been on YouTube since 2013, so a long period. How have you seen, this is a light worker talking to a light worker, how have you seen the spiritual community evolve over the last decade online? Because I feel like it's evolving online more than it is in churches
Mhm.
or, anywhere else. It's interesting. And like the internet's taking a life of its own. If there's a nuclear war, there'll be roaches and the internet, like,
100%. Yeah.
right. With all this on. So have you seen it? Are you seeing it mature? Are you seeing it grow towards ascension? What are you just seeing from your point of view?
Well, I'm gonna start with the angel part of it first, because when I
Okay.
came on, there were very few people who were actual angel mediums, and we had angel card readers because that was very popular. And I think that in its own way was positive, um, but it kind of kept a lot of people on the surface, if that makes any sense.
Mm,
Then
mhm.
it started to become more popular, and then I started seeing, and I'm probably not right about this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. But I started seeing like people who weren't working with angels saying that they're working with angels. And
Oh.
it was, people want to use this popular thing to make money. And okay, whatever. Like you can't police everybody, and it's not my duty to do that. Then it was weird to me because around 2015, I don't know what the heck happened, but suddenly everybody was a tarot reader, and it was
Mhm.
really lovely to see in a lot of cases, but also kind of like, "Yeah, but you're not reading the tarot. What are you doing? What are you doing here?" So it has had, it kind of, I love that everyone was so curious and exploring esoteric arts and their spirituality through divination tools, whatever that was, whatever they were attracted to. But then there was this cheapening of it.
Mm.
And there were a lot of, let's say this is that tough love part that's coming out. There were a lot of
Yep.
people that, um, I don't know, just wanted to capitalize on it,
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
and did not understand the ethics behind doing any of this type of work.
Yeah.
You really do have people who are coming to you with heartbreak in a low frequency, maybe, or just curious about their next endeavor. They're trusting you and they're opening their energy to you. And if you're not respecting that and being ethical with it, it's just a game to you. Oof. That was my biggest, I think, problem with people picking up a tarot deck and just
Mm.
record and then running with it. Um,
I would imagine the same thing happened like with Christianity. Jesus comes out, he's like all these great things, and then all these tchotchke guys that hang out in bars are suddenly priests. Like they're all going in the Jesus business, and it's like, what? You didn't even follow him or believe in it. You're just capitalizing on the moment.
yeah.
There's always those personalities, right? They're gonna sell, they're gonna sell water at a fire. Like they're just gonna take advantage of a crime, of a moment. They're just take advantage of that moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting
Yeah.
perspective. I've definitely seen awareness. I mean, when I started as an astrologer, the word God was a bad word.
Yes.
It was a bad word. I had to say God universe for like the first 4 years I was on the internet,
Mhm.
just to temper it with universe. Like, or maybe it's just the universe and it works all mechanically and there is no God. Like, just
Right.
throwing it out there for you who don't believe in God or who were damaged in a past life by a religion. I think, and I have seen that people work through, and I know this the transits, but it seems like they've worked through a lot of those past life hangups. And I've seen a lot of people who would have called me effing crazy are like, so what's an Aries? Like they're suddenly, I'm talking about the people who, people who never would have seen it before on the internet. With astrology, just do like a comparison. It's the same thing with that you were recognizing that, there's some real hardcore and there's a lot of ancillary young, simple, basic, elementary kind of, they're teaching. But I kind of see it's like, I feel like you attract what you're ready for. So those charlatans attract charlatans, right? Like, or attract people who fall for charlatans. Like that's where you are in that particular moment. So although that's an ugly truth, I think it sort of works out perfectly.
Yeah, we kind of just end up together. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yep. Now I'm gonna, and you can opt out of this question if you like. What the hell happened to Doreen Virtue?
That, I think she probably, and please, I gotta put a disclaimer in here. I've met her, been around
Sure.
her, but I don't know her. Like only she knows what was
Right.
going on with her.
Or what the angels say. I'm just curious. Like she
Yeah.
was on their team and now she's not.
You know,
She's
you know,
not.
I feel like there was a lot of fear that went on
Mm,
there. And I don't, it's probably very personal for her.
mm.
But I'm not, why throw the match behind you on your way out of the barn? Like, why'd you have to burn it all down? Like,
Yeah,
that
destroy it.
part I don't get. But at the time, um, when I came on the internet, okay, being scared to death, coming out as angel souls and just doing my thing, I had so many people say, if you're not Doreen Virtue certified, you can't be doing this.
Wow.
And I was like, is that right? Because I was doing this well before I even knew who she was. God bless
Mhm.
her. Okay. But okay, so she came to New York City and I was like, well, let's see what the hype is. And I went there and
Mm,
it wasn't so much anything Doreen was doing. I also met Radley Valentine. He was lovely,
mm,
absolutely
mhm,
lovely. But it was how people were responding to her. I'm coming back to answering what I think happened to her.
mhm.
Uh, there was such desperation
Of those followers?
of the followers, yeah,
Mhm.
and, I would love to say it was, oh god, how do I say this without sounding like a jerk? I don't wanna sit here and say, like, it wasn't sad, I mean, it was sad, but it was like these people were, loving the feeling of being a victim.
Mm,
Does that make sense? Because,
mhm.
even if they weren't trying to work on anything, that was just the feeling I got from, like, the room. Um, they just loved that if they cried, someone would coddle them.
Mm,
That was kind of where my whole thing came from, the tough love, truth through fire,
mm.
because I felt damaging. And it can also be incredibly invalidating. If anybody watching this has been through trauma, and
Mm.
if someone tells you you're not allowed to feel anything, or someone tells you you're not allowed to have a perspective, or um, you're not, you're so negative, right? I make
Right.
fun of that all the time. You're so negative. Yeah, there is such a thing as being too negative, and then you attract things. That's all true. But this environment was such that it was almost like controlling what everyone thought and all of that. And I just walked away not feeling great about it. Now, if I'm Doreen Virtue and I have that kind of energy coming at me all the time, I'm gonna cut and run myself. I don't know if that's what happened to her. Um, I don't know. But also there can be religion can scare people because
Mhm.
she went the Christian route. And again, good for her. As long as it's pure, I mean, hey, run with it. But I think a lot of that had to do with fear, just my speculation.
Yeah, I'm just curious to people looking at it as professionals in that field, someone who was at the highest and completely burned to the ground. Psychically, what I picked up was she got duped by a demon. Like I feel like she got duped by a demon. I think a demon came in and said and basically gaslit the angels as the demons,
Ooh,
and then in the name of Christianity had them follow them. That's what it feels like, that she got hoodwinked. And the lesson is you may channel the angels, but you weren't learning. Like
yeah. Oh,
like
that's a great point.
mhm.
Yeah.
That
Well,
she fell for the good evil thing, and then she called the good the evil, which to me that's what evil always does. Evil always calls the good evil. They always gaslight. That's like to dawn of time. So to
yeah.
me it smells very fishy, like some sort of a, whatever demons are, right? Or
Yeah.
chaos. Yeah.
Absolutely. And now that you say that, actually makes sense with the audience. Like she was, I don't know, like they were wanting to keep the energy low. And there was even a group of ladies there that was like, they were extra. Okay, they were extra. Like, what are you even doing here? I know you're not pure. You're not being judgy, I suppose, but they were something in that room.
Well, I mean, I think we've seen that in every Southern church where in the name of God, you're going to be a biatch, or you're going to be you're going to, basically do everything you're not supposed to do in the name of God. Like that happens a lot. That's the abuse of that platform
Mm.
For other agendas. And I do think that happens too. I've seen dark agendas trying to infiltrate my work. I have.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah.
Fortunately, I was taught a lot about that as a kid from a very dark father, which is, I think, the setup. So I can smell that skunk way far away, thank God. And when everyone's like, that person's nice, I'm like, fire them, like, or we're not working with them or whatever, because you can just feel the agenda there. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about, because this show has flown by. We're over an hour now, and I want to make sure we talk about you. Tell us about your podcast, the Angel Souls podcast. Is that what you started way back in the day and it's still doing, or is this a new thing?
It's kind of a new thing. It came by request. Some
from
people,
the angels or from people?
People.
Okay.
The people who've been following for a while. They're like, you need a podcast, and I was like, well, isn't that kind of what I'm doing on YouTube? Okay, but I'll figure out a podcast. So I haven't. I haven't been doing it very long, but it's sort of like half hour. I pick a topic that people ask about quite a bit, and I talk on that for a half hour. So
Yay.
That's where it's at right now. Yeah.
Well, it is. I was talking to someone else earlier about when I grew up, Grandma and Grandpa had like NPR playing in the kitchen. Like it was talk radio all day.
Hmm.
And that's all gone. And I think podcasts have replaced that talk radio component in our lives. I know people just like, I listen to podcasts while I clean the house. I listen to podcasts when I do this. It's become like our and also talk shows withered away on TV or became really dark, like Jerry Springer, sleeping with your grandma kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think we've all migrated to truth, which is coming on the podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, your website for everyone to go, where do we start with you? That's the question. Like with all the content you have, should we start with the podcast? Is that how we get to know you over time? And
or you could start with the podcast, or you can go to my website, angelsouls444.com. The actual YouTube channel is Angel Souls. Every other platform that I'm on is Angel Souls 444. That's where that came from. So,
well, it's a signature and you own it. Yeah. So
if they want to go check out what I do, and how I've evolved over the years, my various hairstyles can be seen on YouTube.
Mine too.
All right.
We're slowly removing them.
Yeah.
We're pulling them away.
Yeah,
no, you can actually, people go like, oh, I remember this part of your life when Chris had the long hair. Like they actually tell me like, it was when you had the long hair and you're doing the blonde thing. I was like, oh my God, how they're categorized. That's cute.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And you have a free, something called For the Gumroad. That's it. It's a free class.
Gumroad is a platform where I have lots and lots and lots of courses on spiritual topics, mostly angels, and I even have archangel workshops there.
Wow.
So, and I would encourage people to choose one of those. There's just more content there. But it's until August 16th. If they use code angel-love, you get a free course.
Oh, cool. Angel-love.
Choose whatever you want. Well, like I said, I would highly recommend you get one of the more intensive 7-day workshop videos.
You're saying take advantage of this free.
Exactly,
Get the good one, not how to win in gambling.
Yeah.
And you are on TikTok, you are on Instagram, you are on YouTube. You're like the angels, you're everywhere.
I know. I try. I'm doing what I can over here.
So take full advantage. Last question tonight. Do you have any talking to the angels as you do, any tidbits on where we're going as a species next? Like what's next for us? What do you see from an angel perspective?
Yeah. So we're just finishing up a very deep destruction period.
Destruction. Yes.
Destruction. Everything. And destruction doesn't have to be bad. I mean, it's not pleasant, but it doesn't have to be like the worst thing in the world. Sometimes things have to tear down.
Demolition is a controlled destruction.
Exactly.
Demolition. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm very happy-ish about 2025 for some of us. Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
yeah, there's a big split. Actually, I was tuning in about this before I came on here in case this came up.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be a giant split. And this is that spiritual warfare stuff that we have seen for quite some
Hmm.
time.
Okay.
Where people are going to be like sort of doubling down and they're going to stay trapped in their, ego consciousness, while others are going to have, but they're just sort of simply calling insight. You're just going to have some insight. And your emotional programming, they're saying, is going to sort of quell. It's going to be
Mm.
calmed. And now you aren't so susceptible to worrying about what people think of you, for example.
Hmm.
But it's not like an egotistical kind of way. I'm at peace with who I am. I'm at peace with what is.
Hmm.
I'm excited to see what comes up. But what's really nice for a lot of people who have, you've just remained good people. No matter how someone else was treating you, you've remained loving and kind. I don't want to call it a reward. I think it's more of a realization. I'm good the way that I am. I can now flow. I never disrupted my flow. And other people are still going to be stumbling and tripping over their feet trying to learn whatever it is that they were missing.
Hmm.
So for a lot of people, this could be realizing what, generically saying, realizing what makes you happy. And that might be something completely opposite of what you thought.
Hmm.
If you've always been single, like there's the single gal movement going on. I'm proud a participant in that. But
Hmm.
we're just, rediscovering ourselves by doing things for ourselves. Someone in that group could say, "Oh my gosh, I just fell in love, and now I totally get it." Or, "I would never work in an office, but look, I found this group of people, and I really adore working with them." You know,
Mm.
it's going to be interesting. Here's Gabriel. Gabriel's coming in. A lot of communication. 2025. I don't know what this is about, but we'll just give it to you. It's about the throat chakra
Mm.
and communication. We're learning how to, one, be kinder to one another, but how to say what we mean what we say,
Mm.
the
Mm.
integrity around communications. But that could also be someone out there who wants to write a book or something. You could be working with Metatron and Gabriel. It could
Mm.
do that. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
That makes sense. I mean, I can see us being desensitized. It's like if an adult calls you a duty head, you're like, okay, I'm a duty head. Like suddenly it just has no there. It's a nothing burger.
Yeah,
Whereas 2 days ago it was like, ah,
exactly.
which were injected in by media and by, those, I think these are deliberate plants of disruption going on. So perhaps it's that. It just does bounces right off. But I've seen the split already happening. I
Mhm.
mean, at least in people who are aware, awake, and progressive,
Yeah.
there's a split happening. I mean, I'm having splits where I'm like, we're on entirely different planets. I'm sorry. I love you. I'll see you in heaven, but this isn't going to work. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know you're my brother, but we took different paths, like,
Yeah, yeah,
mhm,
that's
yeah.
exactly it. And that
Yeah.
might be a little painful for some people because, it's like someone that you love very much is on the other side of the glass and you just can't access them. But as
Yeah.
you said, it's gonna probably be for a lot of people just coming to some sort of state of, I just have to accept this. You're there and I'm here.
It's like incarnation itself. It's like you can't understand heaven and heaven. You got to split off. So I feel like we have to split off into study groups because you don't want the other contrary interfering with you going deeper in what you've chosen, right? Like if you constantly have the contrary there and you're not going to really get deep on what you came to do. So I feel it's also that it's like a deepening and
Yeah.
some people are going to learn like darkness on a deeper level and it's because they haven't yet. There's no judgment there. I don't feel
Mm.
a lot of cases when I read charts of people who are suddenly turning on a dark path, that's the first time according to astrology. Like they hadn't tried that yet. They'd always been the good one, or it's like, and from what I understand, you have to try all the flavors. Do you have you heard that in your work? It seems like we have to try all the perspective, all the flavors. I'm talking over many lifetimes.
Over many lifetimes, absolutely. So every single one of us has been the bad guy at some point.
Yes, and a lot of times I'll just say this. I'll do some. What's your fire word? Like a lot of people who are in the victim consciousness were the perpetrator in the past life,
Sure.
and they are getting a taste of their own medicine, and
Mhm.
they're playing the victim card, which is interesting, right? Like I don't know how it works and the mechanics of it, but it's not always what you think. You know what I mean? Like that role you're taking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we should wrap up, but it's been fun. But please stay backstage so we can get free angel readings from you. And I'm kidding.
Sure.
Where are you
Happy
located in the world? Where have you planted yourself?
Where am I now?
Yeah.
I'm in Ohio now. I came back to where I grew up. I've been everywhere across the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I
Me
travel.
too.
Yeah. Have you? You're in Colorado now?
I'm in Colorado now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a hint. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in Colorado now, but I've been in I mean, my father was a nuclear engineer, so we moved all over the country in the 80s. So I end up getting to know my audience, very young, as far as, oh, these are these kind of people and these are these kind of people. It's interesting how your childhood sets you up for being relatable to everyone, right? Sounds like you must have had that too.
Not my childhood. As an
Okay.
adult, I went everywhere. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, I was a very small town girl up until the age of 18. So
Hmm.
yeah.
And that's part of the purity of allows you to channel the angels, having a real pure, non-corrupt foundation allows you then to go do that work because you don't have that, that core disruption, that disruption at your core, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Terrific.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Michelle
Thank you.
Patterson.
Thank you so much.
Peterson. It's a pleasure. You have to come back again. We'll talk angels again and see what happens. Maybe look at from a perspective of world events or something.
Sure. Absolutely.
Thanks so much. All right. It's
Thank
great seeing
you.
you and meeting you. Yay. I'll see you backstage in a minute. I'm just going to put this show to bed. Yeah, I went way long on that one. I kept feeling I was reading the angels and they were like, nope, keep going, keep going, keep going. So the angels produced that show. I'm going to blame them. It'll probably be 3 hours and 33 minutes. We'll see. Okay, but the producer's saying backstage it was great. So good. Yeah, we'll see. Let's stretch this to 3 hours and 33 minutes. But that's a long show for us in our history here. Always very special. I love talking about the angels. I thought that was wonderful. And I'm just looking for my notes to get lost under Windows here. So we're going to here, on the show, we have files and Windows. All right. So what are we promoting? Well, first of all, LOL next week, Leading Out Loud with my fun co-stars, Chris Rex, Scott Cruz, Devin Doer, who's an angel reader, and myself. We are talking about the crowning of a new era. And we're going to talk about the era changes. So we're going to get deep on our psychic ability, our humanness, about how we are in an era shift. And we're going to give several examples of where we're seeing a real profound transformation change in what's happening. So it's going to be a great show. Plus, we always try to make ourselves laugh and we make you laugh too. Also, remember, SeriousJoy.com is now a free site to go check out your step number. We're putting more free content out there. And of course, we have the content you can pay for, which is exceptional. We're there every day with pep talks. We have angel readings with Devin Doer. We have sound healings with Kristen Ryder. We have ceremonies with Joe Zammit. And we have lots of stuff in development. So come on down to Serious Joy and be a part of our community. This week, we're having, basically, we were going to do the Golden Mega Address last week. We moved it to this week. But we moved to next week. But we actually are, that confused me. Are we doing, some of the graphics, I'm like, what? I get lost in space-time. Again, I just came out of the 12th house transit. So, but overall, Kristen Ryder, I think she did record it. That's her show. The Golden Megas I'm going to just screw with the graphics guy now. Let's talk Golden Megas. Kristen is doing Keeping It Surreal. And that's our spiritual talk show on Earth, on Serious Joy. Comes out on one Wednesday of the month. I do believe that is live now. That was taped on Wednesday. And she basically gets us all talking about the things that are surreal. And I think this last episode, it was about love. Now, the following week, next week, we're going to do the Golden Mega Monthly. This is where we're getting confused. We moved that up a week just because of chaos energy. I'll just blame Kali. But this is the show where I go over the entire month of August. Plus the Mega Monthly Address horoscopes come out on Serious Joy TV, SeriousJoy.com rather, this weekend, where you get an individual horoscope for all 12 signs. So we get super deep and help you along the way. Now, sharing, I'm going to skip topics here. Sharing is caring. So what we always say is like the best thing you can do to help us, because we want to help you, is to just share us with your friends and family. And to remember that we actually do the horoscope release again on Tuesday. Not only is it good for you to watch it, it's good to hand it off to a person. A lot of people, I feel like I'm very approachable, and somehow we want to this isn't about me, this is about the message. We want to be able to get that message in front of someone in the way that is the least triggering. And I feel like the horoscopes are a great way to share and do that. It's pretty benign. It's according to the sign. We have a Facebook group called seriousjoy.club. You go to seriousjoy.club, you can be part of our Facebook group. You are allowed to advertise your lightwork business. So it's a lightwork business community, but it's also people sharing spiritual memes and funny stuff. And we allow no politics. So it's a safe zone, especially as we go into this presidential election. If you want to follow me on social media, go to seriousjoy.social. You'll see our linked tree there. You'll be able to click to all the different places we are on the net, and it's a lot of places. And if you'd rather listen instead of watch, we do make Namaste Today live into a podcast, and you can listen to that podcast, not watch, listen on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. And I'd like to say special thanks to our producer, Diane DeStefano, to our casting coordinator, Nina Kay, our director, Adam Turner, and our teaching staff at Serious Joy, Robbie Hunt, Kristen Ryder, Devin Doer, Joe Zammett, Gwen English, Daiki Okamoto, and Heather Exposito. We're very close to not being able to name all those on the air because we're growing so remarkably. And we want to say also special thanks to our super friends. These are people who come and chat every live show. They're part of the studio audience, so to speak, of the chat. Princess Coffee Bean, Jill Louise, Margot Malia, Sydney. I saw you say hi, Sydney. Hi back. Lori Ship, Nikki Anderson, Libran Lauren, Experimental Elemental, Erica, Michelle Kemper, Michelle Bell, Kat Ryder, Soul Brother, Daryl Blankenship, Neptune Girl, Jamar, Christine Kelly, Sydney, and always Iggy and Nitu. Those are just so cute to say together. So, friends, we are grateful. Oh, that's nice. Thanks, Jill Louise. We're so grateful to be of soul service and be with you. This is Serious Joy's 8th year of being on the air, and this is my 18th year of being on the air. So we are very proud that we are here for you, and we're very honored that you're here for us. So thank you. I hope you have a wonderful week of steering your heart in the right direction of dreams coming true. And I'll be back next Friday to see if you feel that's really indeed what's happening. So until next week, remember, I love you. Live, love, be.